I met a gypsy.
Right on.
Yeah, I feel like if you had a podcast writer, it would include Jameson.
Yeah, I'm pretty simple. It's either wine or whiskey.
Yeah, because you guys, I think the last time I spoke to you, you were buying a winery.
Yeah, we, going back a good handful of years, we bought a small winery in an undisclosed location. Let's just say that. And,
I'll edit out where I said where it was.
And yeah, it's just like a mellow little property that, me and my wife wanted a simple sort of lifestyle and area to raise our kids in, away from the cities. We always had a deal that, by the time Willow was 5, this was before Willow was born, but by the time she was 5, we were going to be living outside the cities. And she's always been really into wine. I like drinking wine. I like working. So anyways, long story short, we bought a small working vineyard, and no winery, but just a working vineyard, and lived there for a while and have slowly been learning the trade. And yeah, then this fall, my wife's wine goes to market.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty rad.
I didn't know if you guys were actually going to sell it or what the deal was, but I got the impression you just wanted it for the motocross potential that place could have. And plus, it's like fairly close to a track that you ride quite a lot, so...
No, it was just kind of dumb luck. We ended up where we were, but really, I mean, my wife, she's always really had an interest in wine. I like to drink wine. Now that I've gotten farther down the road with her doing it, I enjoy the process of growing the grapes and working in the vineyard. I personally don't care so much for once it goes, comes out of the vineyard into the crush room. But it's fun. It's a great lifestyle. It's more of a passion project for my wife, and it's something that we can do together. And she kind of jokes about that. Hopefully, her sacrifices now will make our kids amazing winemakers.
Yeah. Are the kids into the whole like farm lifestyle?
My daughter loves it. Yeah. Absolutely.
Because I guess Jameson's probably not old enough to.
Yeah, really he's a little young. He's only 20 months old, but my daughter, she's 7, and she absolutely loves it. I got my shop where I do all my motorcycle projects at, and we got a little lake on our property, and she goes fishing and chases squirrels and helps mom make wine and comes down in the shop with me. She got a little clubhouse down there and just lives a country lifestyle.
Is she a bit of a tomboy?
She's definitely a tomboy.
That's sick.
Yeah. She, I got her riding bicycles at 3, motorcycles at 3.5. She's been racing BMX since she was 3.5. She's actually, that's the one thing that we've been doing pretty consistently is, it's been a little tough on this tour, but actually we were hoping to maybe get out and ride some BMX these next couple of weeks since we're in warmer weather, but she loves racing BMX. It's all about it.
That's crazy.
Likes riding dirt bikes. I'm not pushing that one too heavy.
Yeah.
I just wanted her to be able to ride around the farm with me, but she loves racing.
That's one of the things that I've always like really respected about you is that you were this crazy fucking motocross superstar with the bad boy image back in the day, and like you were a legit rock star, and then you marry a pop star that's maybe one of the most famous women in the world.
Yeah.
And you've kept all your same friends.
Yeah.
And you still build all your bikes. Like so many people get to the place that you've got to and just turn into these fucking weirdos and like ditch all the friends that they grew up with. And it's still like, I mean, even, like I kind of cruise through your Instagram before you come on, and it's like you and Twitch are still giving each other shit.
Oh yeah.
You and Big B are still giving each other shit. And it's like none of this has seemed to change Carey Hart, the dude. And I mean, even, like I said, the last time we hung out, we split a bottle of Jameson while a couch was burning in Glamis.
Yeah.
And it's like, this shit just never got to you, dude. How does that work?
Well, I mean, the thing, I think a lot of people, maybe the confusing part to what you're saying is, me and Alicia, my wife now, Pink, singer, we've been together for 17 years.
It's been a minute.
So we grew up together.
Yeah.
So it's not like all of a sudden this just happened. I mean, honestly, I was probably more popular and definitely was making more money than her when we first started dating.
Yeah,
you know? And, and then as careers grow and each of us grow in our own aspect, nothing really changes. But that's also the same for her. Like, I think the type of person, that you perceive me to be and that I am, I wouldn't want to be in some weird, kooky, Hollywood-based relationship where,
some people froth that shit.
Yeah, I could give a rat's ass about it. I grew up in Vegas. I've been around all that shit.
Yeah.
Look, I had a great time when I was younger and earlier in our relationships, doing red carpets, whatever. But, like I said, we grew up together, and dude, I'm 43. I have no desire to do that shit. I mean, I support my wife doing it, But
But
my
it seems
point is, like, we
even
grew up
she
together.
doesn't like doing that shit.
She doesn't.
Either, you know?
No, she doesn't. She would much rather be at home on the couch with a bottle of wine and the kids, fighting with each other. I mean, that's way more entertaining to both of us than stuffed in suits and dresses and going down the red carpet. I mean, it's a necessity. It's part of the machine, but it's not what we prefer. And like I said, we've grown up together to where, yeah, we did that stuff when we were younger, and it was a lot more exciting in your 20s than it is in your late 30s or 40s. But to your point, like, I'm also a really simple person, like I still stress on money, I'm still cheap as fuck, like I don't like to spend money, like I haven't, in that respect, and it probably drives my wife crazy, I haven't evolved. I still wear Dickie jeans and free clothes. So I'm still mentally the same person I was in my 20s, in my 40s.
It's crazy, like the life that you lived, right? And it's so easy to see people right now, and you kind of like get like people would have a perception of you, like maybe there's people that come across you through the pink thing, but it's like the life that you had before is this exceptionally crazy life that it's like you invented a culture. Like there was a core group of you guys that created a culture that is still going now. Yeah. And it's like, what a time to be alive back in that era. And we had Travis on the podcast not long ago. And even Travis is like this megastar frothing on you doing the first backflip.
Yeah.
How long ago does that even feel like when you were doing that? Was that Gravity Games?
That was Gravity Games
90
2000 or 2001. Anyway,
I was going to say
it feels like a life.
but...
It's a lifetime ago. I mean,
how long ago does that feel like?
Oh, it feels like a lifetime ago. And you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, I'm glad I was around that period. Not so much for starting or building a sport, but just how fun it was back then, and how low pressure and just rage.
Well, you were like writing the rules, man.
Yeah, exactly. And we got away with shit that. Thank God there's no social media around back in those days, I mean, just like destroying hotel rooms and being wild and crazy, just young kids, traveling the world riding motorcycles. Like it was the most insane time of my life from that standpoint.
And just think about too, like, I mean, I'm one of the kids you influenced, right? Like my life, I grew up in Cairns, which is middle of fucking nowhere, and we got Crusty Demons on VHS.
Yep.
And we literally played Crusty Demons on VHS until they stopped working.
Yeah.
And then we had to go to Wayne Leonard's Motorcycles, which was the only store in town that sold those VHSs. And we bought them, and then we did it again.
Yeah.
And it's like that millions of kids that was inspired, not even just that, like the musical taste, like listening to Motorhead and like all of these.
Yep.
It's like you guys created something that still is going now. And it's like, even I wonder, like for myself, like I got into the filmmaking side of things. It's like what's the economy of what you guys did that still goes now? Like I made money making dirt bike films because I watched your dirt bike films.
Yeah.
Like there's a crazy economy that you guys kind of started, and it's still going.
I mean, it's cool. I'm going to sound like the salty old guy right now, but unfortunately, what motocross, freestyle motocross, all action sports really, skate, snow, whatever it is, what it was in the 90s as like this
targetified.
Yeah, well, it's just like it was exciting, everything was new, and there was no internet that ruined everything, and social media that ruined everything, and instant gratification, but there was a culture and a lifestyle behind it back in those days. And I don't know, I mean, my hat goes off, and I actually feel bad for all the, let's just take motocross, what I know, of all these young bangers that are just throwing down the most insane tricks, but
for nothing.
It's like, for what? Yeah. For a highlight reel on Instagram on the popular page, or for that little bit that you might catch on X Games. And it's like, and there's no story of telling their personality, or there's no image to them.
Well, it's like meat grinder. You almost can't have a personality these days, because there's so many ways that you can get fucked by social media, or by even you went through it with Kenny. Like when Kenny was drinking Coors after he won the title with you guys, there was like backlash for this dude that just worked his whole life to win this championship.
Yeah, he's having a couple beers.
And then he had a couple beers and a pizza, and then he's getting crucified. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you're almost like, what made you guys famous was the fact that you were carrying on, like living this extreme life, and everyone was all about it.
Yeah.
And now you get these dudes that try to do that shit today, and it's like, dude, put a lid on that. You can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the slippery slope. I think that was the good and the bad of my personal career, how I run all my businesses, how I ran my race team. I mean, dude, I was the one there giving Ken Roczen a beer. Like, fuck you guys. This dude just worked his ass off, won a championship. He's a grown-ass man. He can enjoy a couple of beers or whatever that might be. You know, and I think that's just where the heart and soul, not from an alcohol standpoint, but like the heart and soul has kind of been sucked out of action sports due to political correctness and social media and always being on your best behavior. And I really wish, and I'm going to kind of start beating up on Fox about this a little bit, but I think people are kind of looking for that resurgence of, I could be totally off, but me and my old standpoint, like I think it'd be awesome to go out and do a new terra firma and go spend 12 months filming. And yeah, cool. Like you don't have to get the double flips and the triple flips, but do the road trips with like all the iconic guys, you know, get Roczen and Carmichael out for a trip and like maybe me and Twitch and, you know, getting back to that roots of, because it wasn't the riding that had you guys stoked on Krusty. I mean, it was cool. It was rad crashing and big dune jumps or whatever, but it was the partying and the lifestyle. It was all of it. Yeah, being in a van and like, you know, being like, feeling like you're in the passenger seat of, you know, going through Peru or going through Brazil or, you know, whatever that situation might be. It's getting back to the lifestyle of it. I mean, why do people sit here and listen to podcasts? They can't even see it. And if they do see it, it's just two guys sitting at a table, but they want to feel like they're involved with something. And I feel like that's a huge piece missing in, I mean, action sports in general, but specifically motocross. I mean, that's why Ken is such a fucking rock star, because you hear him in interviews. Fuck everybody. He don't care. As long as he's doing his work during the week and doing what he's supposed to do on the weekends and winning races and going after championships, fuck everybody.
Dude, what a fucking kid he is. Like, did you enjoy the couple years working with him? Like, it'd be hard not to enjoy being around that guy. Yeah,
well, that was the cool thing. Me and Ken were friends before we were work relationship. And, you know, we were friends for quite a few years. We have the same management company. And, you know, and when we got together, you know, I kind of gave him the speech. I said, okay, look, you know, here's our friendship. We're going to set this over here, and then we're going to work. Yeah. And then when the clock ticks, we can go back to being friends, and we can pick up this glass. And, you know, I mean, look, it's always tough. I think it's probably tougher for Ken because he saw a side of me that wasn't always fun Carey. It was business Carey. But I think he respected me, and I know he respected Carmichael, and he respected the whole program. And look, we had ups and downs like any program does with, you know, whether Ken with Honda now or Eli Tomac with Cowie or anybody else. It's part of the machine. But in the end, I think to go through the path that we went down, I mean, he's a young kid. He was 20 when he came and rode for us. Yeah, it's already won a championship, you know, and not many 20-year-olds know what they want, what they do, they don't want. But to go through the course that we went through, the highs and the lows, and to end it on winning a championship, you can't really be mad at that. And to this day, it's never affected mine and his relationship. We still text back and forth all the time. He just came to my wife's show a couple of months ago. And I'll tell you what, if he was going to go out and have a beer, I'd probably be the first person he'd call.
Yeah.
So,
and I think too, like, I was involved in the JDR team, which was really running in parallel with you guys. Very similar era, I guess privately funded, which was quite similar. And then that manufacturer support. Like, there's so much detail that goes on behind the scenes. Like, even Suzuki brings out a bike with air forks. Ken's got to run air forks. Ken doesn't like air forks. His performance isn't as good. That's a reflection on the team. Yeah, it's like there's so many things that are out of your control, they're out of Ken's control, and they're things that you can't say in the moment to the average fan. Like, hey man, these forks are actually a piece of shit. Yeah, we have to run them. Yeah, Ken doesn't like them. We're kind of fucked. Yeah. So it's like, but you can't say that because you're in that you're in that world.
Well, but look, here's the reality. I mean, you can look at racing as whatever it is, but we're not curing cancer. And at the end of the day, what we're doing, we're entertainment and we're selling products for people. Yeah. So same thing with NASCAR. I mean, you think, you know, some racer on the track's going to say, you know, fucking McDonald's sucks and it gave me diarrhea. That's my fucking team sponsor. Like, it doesn't work that way, you know? So, you know, there's a perception and then there's a reality behind closed doors, and it's just part of racing, part of competing.
Dude, what you guys did, like, the Hart and Huntington team that had fucking stripper poles in the pits. And then how many years removed was it until you won the 450 AMA Motocross Championship with Carey Hart and Ricky Carmichael, who were way more similar than people think.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the perceived,
Opposites.
it was just like doosh, everyone's minds got blown. But it's like to take it from that black and white. Like, were you on Cowie first? Was that the first?
We started on Honda. Started on Honda.
Okay.
Went to Cowie, then to Suzuki.
So it's like what a trip to do that. And I mean, just the effort that I know that it takes to run the team for a person in your position in life to just not have to do that. I think it really showed like your passion for the sport.
Yeah.
And it was a crazy fucking, just to come from stripper poles to Ken Roczen winning a national.
Yeah.
That's a crazy ride, dude.
We had a 10-year run from year one to our last year winning or actually not winning the championship with Ken, but the next year with Brock and Bogle. But yeah, it was a 10-year run, and we basically, we got into this thing at that time. Really, my focus was, aside from my personal riding career, was my tattoo business and more so the clothing business at that time. And at that time, freestyle motocross guys were making a shit ton of money, myself included, and we were a small business, and we weren't really set up to be able to go sponsor a bunch of marquee freestyle athletes or a bunch of athletes in general. And I'd been itching really to get back into the race world. I kind of had a chip on my shoulder about how I left racing. Myself and Metzger and Deegan, a lot of guys kind of got forced out of racing. But luckily enough, we went on to do freestyle motocross, and that was successful. But I definitely had a chip on my shoulder about motocross, and I wanted to get back in it and kind of show that, some tattooed scumbag that kind of got shunned out of racing can come back and do something. So when we got back into it, it was myself and Kenny Watson that really started the program. And, for the first handful of years, it was a smoke show, literally, because when I went into it, I knew we were going to be working with riders, and no offense to them, but because
they
of what
weren't
we were
the
paying,
championship level dudes.
We weren't even paying these guys. We were just taking them racing. So from that standpoint, our goal was to make mains, and we knew that, okay, if we weren't going to win on the track, we had to win off the track.
In the pits.
Exactly, and we were going to win in the pits. And and those were the days when, when you would walk through a Supercross pit in those days, it was all business, and, at best case scenario, you could stand in line for an hour and get an autograph, but you go back in the stadium. There was no atmosphere in the pits. There was no excitement. It was very, very, there was no music. It was extremely dry. And that's the one thing I'm kind of proud about, because
now it's a lot different.
Now it's a party,
fucking Tundras.
Exactly. And, Monster has their big old, moving stage and DJs, and, and every team is now activating from some standpoint. And it's brought a lot of excitement to racing, because before that, that's how we won. And we were literally bringing people through our truck, and like, where at that time it was like, nope, you got to stay back. You can only get an autograph, and we don't want you even looking over here, and don't look at our bikes. We were bringing people through, and we had Rockstar as a sponsor, and we were doing Rockstar beer pong. So people could come into our truck and like be under the canopy and play Rockstar pong and listen to music, and you
guys had DJs and shit.
Yeah, we had guest
Kenny
DJs.
was on the mic.
Yeah, we had guest DJs coming through. Like my buddies from Cottonmouth Kings would come through and DJ, and different people, and without knowing it, I'm not going to sit here and tell you like I've foreseen the future, but at that time, that was before creating content was really a thing yet. That was before data collecting was a thing yet. And we would have people come through, and at that point, we're kind of like, well, let's start getting everybody's email information so we can start sending email blasts out. So we started that, and then we went from pen and paper to actually using iPads and collecting data. And what a lot of people don't know is, like, as we were a smoke show and we evolved this thing, we signed all of our major contracts before Kenny came along, and we lost them while Kenny was winning the championship, because that machine caught up. Meaning, where take Jimmy John's Sandwich Shop, okay? Jimmy John's sponsors NASCAR, and they know what their return investment is on NASCAR, and they know if they spend X amount of dollars in this footprint, they're going to get a return on that. Now, we signed them, and all fast track really quickly, because at that time, NASCAR wasn't really collecting data. So they came to us and like, wait a minute, you can give me, I'm getting, 5,000 unique email addresses every week for how many races? That's what we sold our program on. Yeah. And people were always kind of like scratching their head, like, well, you won the championship and then your team went away 2 years later. It's like, it's not about what you do on the track, because you know how many times I got a phone call from Jimmy himself at 4:00 in the morning on a Sunday morning, and he's rewatching the live feed of the Supercross, and he's like, dude, I can't see my fucking logo. Like, what's happening out there? I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you. He's like, well, I mean, it's great we're doing the pits, but now NASCAR's doing that as well. And we eventually started to lose sponsors because of shitty TV packages and bullshit with Feld. And that, so long story short, like it's funny, like how we kind of started doing this smoke show literally. And as the program evolved, that smoke show is what got us going with those sponsors and got us to win a championship. And then at a certain point, me and Ricky are like, you know what? I'm kind of done traveling. I'm done going to 25 events a year. And we all have kids now. We're not in our teens anymore, or 20s and 30s, and kind of let her go off the pasture.
Dude, it gets a lot harder than people think, and especially the mechanics. Like, that's the one thing I learned from my couple of years doing the entire circuit with JDR, is that the mechanics are on, like, no money and doing the craziest job, the craziest travel schedule. Like, it's really hard, even for me as like a dude that was filming these races, to just keep on that grind, man. Like that. Oh, it's brutal. That shit's brutal, dude. And like, I remember one day in particular at Budds Creek, and it was like just so fucking hot. And I'm this kid that frothed on motocross my whole life, would have given anything to be at Budds Creek. And I was like halfway through the season, I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm watching this shit on Fox, and I'm going back in the semi. Yeah. And I watched the motos of Budds Creek my first time there. Yeah. Inside the semi. Truck. I was just like, I'm over it.
It's brutal.
It's a grind.
It is. You know, I mean, you know, for us, and it's all race programs, you know, we start the 15th of September. I mean, 15th of September is testing and development and Monster Cup, and you run that all through preseason, and then you got, 32 races between Supercross and outdoor. And when that checker flag flies at Ironman, everybody gets 2 weeks vacation, which basically is the 1st of September, and you start again the 15th of September. And that is repeat for the 10 years we did it. You know, and for me, it was like, I'm trying to sell sponsorship from, you know, June until December. And then, surprise, races start here. And then I was obligated to go to 15 to 16 Supercrosses, another 10 sponsorship appearances. So I was on the road for 25 weekends out of the year. And, dude, it's just a grind and stressful.
Yeah, and it's people always say, like, and it's definitely one of the things. I mean, and I'm sure you could even see this with Leisha and what she has to go through. People that are like, you're living the dream, man. I'd give anything. And it's like,
that's the dream.
Would give anything.
To see the fucking nightmare.
Yeah, you would give anything.
Yeah.
But you're not there. And it changes when you're actually in all this. And I mean, even like, she just copped a bunch of shit the other day because didn't she have to cancel some shows? Sick. Yeah. And it's like, people get sick, man. Like, every single person goes like even I had a friend the other day that was saying like, oh man, I got so sick, and then work just wouldn't let me not come in. They're like, you have to come in. I'm like, fuck them. And it's like, they're probably the same people that they bought the concert tickets
and are complaining.
And then they're like, oh, well, she's sick? You got the best job in the world, and you're gonna be, and it's like, come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's brutal. I mean, I don't know. I guess kind of to answer your question, or to jump on that topic, it's, from the outsider, and even in my shoes in my 20s, her shoes in her late teens, you would give your fucking left nut to be in that truck and at that event and racing and living that lifestyle. Understandably, fast forward 20 years, it's not quite as exciting. And not to say that it's not as exciting for her, but the perception, it's all rock and roll. Well, you know what? In your early 20s, when you can party all night, go on stage and then party all night, or contest and rage all night and sleep all day and repeat the next day, sure. But when you got 2 kids, you're in the, you know, for her in her late 30s, does a gnarly fucking show, super physical show. She ain't up there lip syncing like the rest of them are. She's up there putting it down, singing.
Well, she's doing circus
exactly.
LA.
Like, it's you, and she'll do this run. She'll do 200 plus shows in 2 years.
It's fucking crazy.
And not including the 6 months that we were out doing promo, flying all over the world with the kids so that she could go do radio spots and TV spots. I mean, it's a 3-year cycle from start to finish. It's gnarly.
Yeah. And it's, the thing is too, and I think that this just comes with life in general, right? Is like, if you're this talented person, you're at so far on the extreme end of talent, then that equal measure, there's darkness that's there. So for whatever light you've got, for whatever the the highest high is,
Yeah.
there's an equally low low.
Oh yeah.
So it's always this trade-off. And if you live your life in this middle where you don't have like these crazy highs, you're not going to have these crazy lows.
Yeah.
But the further you start creeping your spectrum of, you know, getting to where you're in a stadium performing for 150,000 people, then the equal is true on the low end of the equation.
Oh, totally.
And the pressure that it would take to kind of keep that up, and all of the things that then come with that.
Yeah.
And I just think that the people that can make those calls that say like, fuck, you living the dream, man. It's their highs and their lows. They just don't have the same perspective as what people have when they're actually living it.
Oh, for sure. And it's all about what you want to put into it. You know, I mean, for myself with my career, as well as my wife, it's always been a business first. Like I trained, I worked hard at it. I didn't get too consumed in the lifestyle, which I'm sure, you know, a lot of athletes do. And it was a machine, and I treat it as a business, just like my wife does. She doesn't, you know, there is no blurring of Pink and Alicia. I mean, she's the same person on stage as off the stage. And I think that's why people can relate to her so well. And I think it's why people relate to me so well. I mean, like you brought up earlier, I'm sort of the working class dudes guy.
Yeah.
But the people that get so consumed in it, like you're saying, that's where it can go awry. And it's funny because like I've just been playing catch up on a lot of TV shit while we've been on the road. Like I'll put stuff on while I'm working out. And I just finally started watching this Red Bull series from when Ken was writing for me. It's like called MX Nation or something like that.
Yep.
And it's funny because I just watched it a couple of days ago, but there was like this part of this interview where it was going back and forth between Ken being interviewed and Dungey and Alden Baker being interviewed. And this is when Ken was writing for me, and Ken's like, dude, I got to have fun. If I'm not having fun, I'm going to suck on the fucking weekends. I'm going to be burned out. And he was talking about why he went away from Alden Baker. But then you have Alden's interview, and Alden's like, well, if it means burnout and more championships, then I'm going to push my guys to go win more championships and burn out earlier. And it's like what you were just talking about, like the good and the bad, the light and the dark. It's like, you know, for me, it's like, do I want to be number one, or do I want to be like number 5 and have a fuck ton of fun and do it for a long time?
Yeah.
I'll take number 5.
Dude, Dunge is the guy that was called. He wanted that legacy. He wanted every championship, and now he's pieced out. But dude, the first podcast I did was with Dunge, and I'm like, all right, what's next for Ryan Dungey? Like, he doesn't have a clue.
Yeah,
there's nothing else.
Yeah,
and I didn't feel sorry for him because it was the choices that he made, but I was really surprised that there's this guy that's this like beacon of hope and a Wheaties box dude, and he doesn't even know what he wants to do with the rest of his life at 27 years old because he was so consumed with racing.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, it's just the choice. Like, that's the choice that he made. And even when people want to say like, oh, Dunge's life must be perfect. Could you imagine being 27 and your entire life and identity is wrapped into a thing that you don't do anymore?
Well, I think that's also, you know, there's obviously been some pretty gnarly deaths in action sports over the last couple of years. And I think that's something that people don't really talk about is like what happens life after motocross, or what happens life after being an athlete. You know, I think there's a fine line between like this whole concussion syndrome thing that's happening and just post-athlete depression. I mean, there's guys committing suicide left and right because it could be concussion syndrome, or it could be, dude, I no longer have an identity. I'm 32 and I'm washed up and I got to go find a job and I don't want to live this life anymore. You know, and I know that's a very extreme situation
it's
of it.
Real,
but,
dude. It's real.
But I'll tell you what, a guy like Ken, if tomorrow he won his last championship and he's like,
Gucci,
I'm done,
baby.
He's going to be like, all right, I'm going to go fucking wakeboarding today. And then I'm going to go party with my buddies. And then I'm
Yeah.
going to go to Germany. And like that kid knows how to go have a good time.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he's balanced pleasure and fun times with competitive serious life, and I think he's gonna be one of those dudes that enjoys it more. I mean, I'll tell you what, I'm stoked to see Villapoto now because I don't really know Villa that well. I mean, I know him just from the races, but now seeing him post motocross career, like, dude, doing beer bongs after winning the 125 race, I was like, fuck, dude, why didn't you do that in your career? Like, that would have been so punk rock, you know? Dude. I mean, like talk about like, I mean, like he's getting sleeve now, you know, beer bongs on the podium, and I know it's a different lifestyle and a different time, but you know, I'm glad he's finding himself, because that's the thing that makes me most nervous about people.
Yeah, well, you look at.
I mean, I went through it.
Did you?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. You know, like for me, you know, luckily enough, not to go like down a big old long dark story, but I had
We got time, bro.
Yeah, I mean, well, what was considered, which I thought was going to be a career-ending injury. I got hurt really bad on Tony Hawk's tour back in '03, and just through dumb luck, I had started to go down the path of opening this tattoo shop, which was just going to be a little passion project. So, anyways, you guys kind of know the history on that. I did that, but there has been times in my life, even most recently, like with what I'm doing in V-Twin right now. There's times where it's like, oh fuck, like this is my identity. Like I've been riding motorcycles since I was 4. I've been professional since I was 17. So I've been professional for 25 years. And what am I away from a dirt bike? Like when people say, what do you do for a living? How do I answer them? And that's a pretty intense piece that, getting back to the Dungy thing and all that's like, fuck. I mean, I hope he has a good, infrastructure around him to where, he can go transition and go and do some really fun, positive things and not go to the dark side and be like, well, fuck, what do I do now? I'm 27 years old. I got a boatload of money and I don't know what to do to make myself happy.
Yeah. It's definitely, it's gotta be a super hard place. And I guess everyone has to go through that at some point in their life, right? Yeah. But most people do it in a way more organic way, if that makes sense, like without a lot of money, without cameras, without people knowing who you are. So I feel like it's something that we all have to go through. I mean, dude, even like I remember being in the States when I was there and I was like 23, 24. I mean, it would have been around the time we last hung out. And it's like, I don't really know who the fuck I was.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, I feel like I'm kind of just figuring it out now. I just turned 30. Yeah. But it's like, at the same time, like, I didn't have people looking at me. I didn't have any of that. And it's like, I guess now it's a little bit like that with the podcast, but on like a micro sort of scale. Yeah. But I feel like I started doing this for the right reason, but I kind of know who I am now. But I mean, I was just a lost kid. We all do it. Oh, yeah. But the thing is with a guy like Dunge or Ken, it's like they almost don't have to find out who they are with themselves. It's because they kind of get told who they are by motocross media, by how many championships they win, by the contracts that they get, by the people that are around them, like the yes men. Yeah. They're like, fuck yeah, you're Ryan Dungey. Oh, you're going to kill it, man. Yeah, Ken Roczen's so shit. He's just out partying. You're the man. Yeah. So it's like you kind of, these dudes get told who they are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird thing. Like I have a buddy of mine who's a professional BMX dirt jumper, and he's my age, he's 40, and I feel like we're just really, I mean, yeah, you can go back to McGrath or Carmichael. Actually, not even Carmichael because he's so young, but you can go back to McGrath or whatever. But prior to like the 40-somethings, like my age right now, or even, getting into like the older moto guys, like you're really just now starting to scratch the surface and getting into guys that have been, let's take motocross, for instance. Prior to the Jeremy McGrath era, no one made enough money to retire from motocross. Yeah. It was just like, if you're Bob Hanna or Ricky Johnson, it's like, cool, or Jeff Ward, like, yeah. Cool, I just won a bunch of championships, and now I'm going to segue into car racing, or I'm going to go do something that's going to make me money to keep going, because you don't have enough money to retire on. Yeah. And now I feel like you're really starting to see this first generation of, okay, I got a ton of money, to your point, I got a ton of money, and I just totally, everything that I am is a dirt bike rider or a professional skateboarder or a BMX rider, and now my life's over, and I've been seen through social media and .coms. There's been an oversaturation of myself. Now what do I do? And I think it's just kind of a funny place, because most of these kids, and I say kids because Dungy's a kid and Ken's a kid. It's like, I wonder if they really think about like post motocross. Like, you live so much in the moment. Yeah, like, you only think about the championship that's going to wrap up in the next 6-8 weeks. Like, what is your thought process when you hit 35? And it's kind of an interesting thing, and we're going to see that play out really kind of moving forward, and whether that's BMX or snow or moto or freestyle, I mean, I think a lot of guys and myself included, like, I can go back in my head, for me, my most exciting time in my career was the late 90s and early 2000s, because I was going somewhere, I was building something. Yeah. I hadn't quite been there yet. And then as it goes on, like, I always kind of kept thinking back in my head, like, oh man, what am I going to do when this is done?
So you had those thoughts when you were...
Oh, yeah.
Really?
I still do. I mean, to this day.
Why do you think that you had those thoughts? Because, like, all right, so let's look at let's compare you and Dunge. We'll just keep that theme going, right? Dunge kind of has it all together, right? So it's like he kind of has time. Like he's having the proper rest. He's sleeping right. He's eating right. He's got all these people looking after stuff for him. He's got the time to sit there and go like, okay, what am I going to do when this is over? You were fucking out of control. You were living this crazy rockstar lifestyle, partying. If you would compare you two and say, which one do you think was thinking about life after this crazy ride? Carey Hart would not be the dude that people would pick.
Probably not. Yeah.
Why do you think you were actually thinking about that stuff?
I mean, I grew up pretty broke. I mean, I didn't go without, but my old man was a construction worker. It was just me and him, and he always taught me.
So your mom wasn't around?
No,
No,
my mom split when I was like 2. Like I still talk to her, but I stayed with my dad, and I was always with my old man, and he was a hardworking construction worker, barely got by, and there was times where we either had hot water or I had the parts to go race that weekend.
Yeah.
So, but my point is that he was always really strict on me as far as grades and like keeping a even head on my shoulders, and I always kind of looked at it as like, look, I'm not, at the time I was a racer before freestyle motocross. I'm not a prodigy. I'm a fast Vegas kid. I'm a mid-pack racer at best. I made some mains, had a good time, but I always knew like, look, I'm never going to be Jeremy McGrath and making millions of dollars a year and going to retire off of this. I'm going to do this as long as I can. That's why I was really good in school, and I was going to go be an accountant, and I always had a plan B. But then when freestyle motocross popped, and literally overnight, we all started making some good money. There was a thing where it's like, yeah, I want to do this forever and I want to ride this out, but I'd have to be a fucking idiot to think this is going to last forever.
Yeah.
You
couldn't have seen what was going to happen.
No idea. And once again, as fast as it got successful, it could have nose dropped 2 years later. It could have been a flash in the pan.
A bubble, yeah.
It totally could have been. And sort of it was a bubble.
In a way.
Yeah. Luckily it lasted quite a while for a handful of us, but compared to what guys are doing now versus what we were, it's a totally different world. But yeah, I was always, like, even though I could enjoy myself in the moment, and like I said, I do this today. I can enjoy myself in the moment, but I am always thinking, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next play? What's my next move? Because, me growing up, like I said, I didn't live on the streets, but we were broke. I had a roof over my head, but I saw how hard my dad worked and what sacrifices I had to give for certain things, and I don't ever want to go back to that again. Especially being frivolous and staying in Four Seasons and doing tours and
shit.
all, like doing crazy freestyle motocross tours and open bottle nightclubs, blah blah blah, to go from that to swinging a shovel for a living. Like I don't want to do that.
Yeah. So
I was always really looking forward to the next play and probably put a lot of pressure and stress on myself, but it kind of made me the person who I am, and that's why I was always going after. Whether it's my tattoo shops, my nightclubs, my race teams, my businesses, like I was really driven.
Yeah. When we had Trav on, he said that he didn't really realize in the moment that Deegan was cultivating this whole thing and he was creating this rivalry, and it was like Trav just thought Deegan was just a dick that wanted to fuck with him. Mm-hmm. But really, Deegan was a super smart dude that was cultivating this image and knew that he could play against Travis and make it the all-American kid next door versus the punk rock tattooed freak show.
Yeah, totally.
So, but I guess it's like, because Travis isn't a dumb dude, but Deegan was such a good actor that he actually had Travis fooled to where all Trav had to do was be himself, and Deegan's plan would work out fine, and they'd both make millions and millions of dollars. How much of it, because you're a super smart guy, and I think a lot of people, especially back then, would have been like, here's this crazy fucking dude that's just going around all the tattoos and backflips, and he's got spikes on his fucking armor. And how much were you playing that same game that Deegan was?
I wasn't. I was not playing any games. That's also why I didn't get lumped into all that bullshit. Deegan is a smart guy, but if you go shake that tree, you're going to find a lot of pissed off people over in that camp. And that's none of my business or anything to talk about. But I stayed in my own lane. I had a plan. And
so you did have a plan.
My plan was as much like of what I tried to do in motocross. I treated it as a business. I wanted to have a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong, and I wanted to go party with all the boys. But I tried to make it a business from a standpoint of leading up to when freestyle popped in 98. I was living in my van racing supercross and outdoors for the prior 5 years before that. No mechanic. I had $100 a week and a calling card. Okay. Like I didn't want to go back to living in my van. Great times. I had an amazing time doing it and I wouldn't trade it for nothing, but I felt like I did have a plan. And my plan was to bust my ass and ride and try to be innovative and be my own person. Because at that time, it's like, dude, I don't want to be lumped in with a bunch of other dudes. I mean, I think Mike Metzger did a really good job for a long time being his own self.
Yeah.
Travis was being his own self. You know, Deegan and Larry had their thing going on. I was just going to kind of stay in my lane and do my thing. And I was going to work really closely and good with my sponsors. And luckily enough, I got hooked up with Steve Asifin, who's the same manager that Pastrana has. And I worked. You know, like I didn't just cash a check and go out and buy a sports car or a nice house. I worked with my sponsors. I worked with my team managers. And through those relationships is what helped me learn to build my brands. Because I didn't go to college. I didn't have a rich dad or anybody a sounding board. It was just me and my sponsors and my manager. And I spent time with my sponsors like, why are you paying me a bunch of money? You know, well, you're going to be the face of this new line or this new boot or this new gear. And, you know, we want the people that follow you to purchase this stuff. So I learned from all that. I can tell you, I made 200 plus mistakes in every business I've ever started, whether it's race teams, tattoo shops, all of it, payroll, whatever. But I knew how to build a brand. Yeah. I knew how to market it. And that's that perception. And if you do that right, 7 times out of 10, everything else will work out. Yeah. You know? But yeah, I did have a plan, but I wanted to be professional about it. I wanted to have my own persona and my own self, which that was me. That was the nice thing is I didn't have to act. You know, it was just me. You know, I was Vegas kid. I was dude lived next door to TJ Lavin, rode BMX and rode moto and was friends with everybody and rode my ass off and partied my ass off and was always on time for autograph signings. And, you know, and one thing I could tell people, if you look at my career from 98 until arguably whenever the end of it was, technically, you know, my last year doing contests.
Yeah, what is the end?
I don't know. Who knows? So,
I don't think there is like a...
Say it's 2015. So you look at that, you know, 13-year window, I was hurt a majority of it. Yeah, there was a period of 3 years where I didn't even ride a motorcycle, but I kept my sponsors. And I think the moral to that story is it ain't about what you do on the bike. It's about what you do off the bike or the skateboard or the bicycle or anything else. You know, I worked hard and I worked hard with my sponsors and my fan base, and I busted my ass off my bike probably more than I did on my motorcycle. And that's what gave me my longevity. I got 4 medals to my name. And you know what? If I had 3 or 2 or 1, it wouldn't make a difference anyways. Yeah. I think my work ethic is what, you know, and my own desire to be my own person is kind of what just gave me my longevity.
Well, you mentioned Steve. He's like this crazy behind the scenes, like puppet master almost, and not in like the negative puppet master. Like he's responsible for a lot of shit.
Oh, he is. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm one of his first.
Steve Aston.
Yeah, Steve Aston. Yeah,
just listening.
Yeah, Steve Aston with Wasserman. I was one of his first 8 athletes. You know, it was me and Bucky Lassick and Bob Burnquist and Dave Mirra, Ryan Nyquist, and a couple other people. I mean, even Travis came on a couple of years after us. And
he was Sheckler's dude.
Sheckler. I mean, he was Sean White for a long time. I mean, you name it, every banger he's got.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, and the thing that was great about Steve was where I didn't have a college education and I didn't have the know-how to negotiate my own contracts at the time and all that stuff. I had a person I could trust. It was like, look, you just go do you. You focus on riding and working with your sponsors and working with your fan base and being at all the events, and let me do all the nasty part. You know, I'll do your contracts and, you know, handle all the billing and I'll be good cop. Or he's like, I'll be bad cop, you be good cop. And, you know, over the years, I learned a lot through Steve, and even through, I mean, still to this day, he's still my manager. We've been together for 20 years, and he helped me, you know, get my Supercross team started. And I learned a lot from Steve. And then the irony of it is fast forward all these years later, I can now start the conversations and get the iron in the fire with a sponsor. And like through my Supercross team, you know, a lot of the sponsors collectively between myself or Kenny or whoever, like we brought the sponsors and then Steve just kind of closed it and did the contracts. So I was fortunate enough to learn a lot from Steve through those years. So we've always had a great working relationship that way where I could learn from him and he was always really honest with me. But behind the scenes, yeah, I mean, he was the backbone of, I mean, you go back and look through, you know, all the top action sports athletes from the mid 90s until current day. I bet Steve has represented 80 to 90% of them or has had some influence in them along the way to help steer them through their career.
It's definitely crazy. And I think that there's a lot of people that talk shit about him, and I mean, I've had nothing but good experiences with him.
I mean, he's a fucking agent.
He's
He's
an
supposed to be
agent,
liked.
yeah.
That's the thing.
But like when you just look at what you said, like 80-90% of people that exploded, like created this bubble,
Oh yeah.
he's been a part of. And it's like, if you looked at the butterfly effect of Steve Astafin,
Oh yeah.
there's a lot of fucking money. There's
for
a
sure.
lot of shit that went down
Yeah, 100%.
because of this dude.
I mean,
from-
he's Ken Roczen's
Yeah.
manager. You know, I mean, he's a bright dude. Like, I mean, the funny thing is he's only 3 years older than me.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we got together in our 20s.
Yeah, no, he's a guy I'd love to actually get on the podcast because he's a super interesting cat he's had a hand in a lot.
Yeah.
Like I just think people would actually kind of freak out to know how much stuff he was actually a part of.
Yeah. I mean, it'd even be funny. I would like to hear that, you know, because there's a lot of stuff I don't remember due to the hops and the barley and everything in between, you know? Yeah.
When did the backflip first become like a legitimate thing that you were going to try and do? Because that's something like, fuck everything else. You were the first dude to backflip a dirt bike.
Yeah.
How many people before you thought of doing it, but thought it was impossible?
Well, that was an interesting time in freestyle. You know, that was, once again, you know, 2000, and there's this bubble had been created, you know. You had freestyle that kind of burst through the 90s, and first contest started in the late, you know, 98, 99, and, you know, X Games. Anyways, everything was really big and exciting.
And it was almost like you'd think that it had capped out before the backflip, right?
Well, that was the big discussion.
And it's like, where can this go now? And it was already huge.
Yeah.
And then when you did that, it's like it got sent into this stratosphere that people didn't even think it could go in. And it was already a bubble. And then after that, it was like a fucking land race after that.
It was crazy because at that time, you know, so what kind of got to that point was I'd moved back, you know, I lived in Southern California, was tired of it.
Did you do the Temecula thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did all that, hated it out there. You know, I want to go back to Vegas. After I got kind of established, moved back to Vegas. And when I moved back to Vegas, I moved next door to TJ Lavin. Me and Lavin were buddies. TJ Lavin's top BMX dirt jumper. And at that time, I remember like late night, like 99, I was actually living with him while my house was getting built next door. And there's all this, you know, commotion about, okay, well, great, freestyle motocross. It's been an X Games, but, you know, it's flattened out. How many other tricks can you do? You take your hands off, you take your feet off, you know, Superman's, whatever. And I've always grown up riding BMX, and me and TJ would ride BMX. I'd ride his backyard with him, and then he'd come ride moto with me. And we just kind of kicked the conversation. I was like, dude, you think it's possible? I was like, I think so. I mean, anything's possible. So we kind of talked through it through the winter time, like early part of winter. And he's like, hey, let's go out to Woodward and let's go spend a week in Woodward and do 10,000 flips into the foam pit and see what you think. See if you feel that it's possible to transition from a BMX bike to a dirt bike.
So you were flipping the BMX bike?
Yeah.
Because
keep in mind, this is pre-foam pit.
Yeah.
So me and TJ flew out to Woodward out in Pennsylvania, and we spent about a week out there in late winter, early spring, and just kind of learned it all. Got comfortable flipping, and you know, started the foam pit, then went to resi, then was flipping the box jumps and dirt jumps, and it just was a slow build over the course of a week. And at the time, I was also filming my documentary Good Times, and it wasn't a planned thing. It was just kind of, you know, a year in the life at that point. So after we spent that week out there, and I had my filmer there, we came back and we were watching all the raw footage and we're talking about it. And I'm like, dude, I think I can do it. I mean, it's just about getting the bike spinning. You know, I'm not going to be able to control it. I mean, at least at that time, you know, I'm not going to be able to control it as much, but if I can get the inertia going, just fucking hold on, right? You know, I'm young and dumb, 25, 20. Yeah, you know, it's like I'm 26 at the time. So I was like, fuck, I'm going for it. So leading up to, so this was springtime. So leading up to Gravity Games in Rhode Island, which I think was like June, you know, that was the agenda. It's like, fuck it. So my dad, I had like a little private freestyle course, which at that time was just one jump. And we kind of spent 3 or 4 days kind of building the landing. Cause back in those days, my dad built a lot of the freestyle courses. Like he built Gravity and a lot of X Games.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. He built the first, the one in Vegas, the first ever contest. He built that. Yeah. He was the dude in the early 90s or the 90s and 2000s building. Yeah. So we kind of just came up with an idea of what we thought was going to make it work. You know, we didn't know, but it just kind of rolled the dice. And I just did a shit ton of visualization, and I was still riding BMX with TJ, and trying to flip a bunch on my bike and just kind of stay in that mindset, being comfortable upside down, and then dude, rolled out to Gravity Games and just sent it.
That was the what is it, the 4-minute mile that you guys? That's the American thing, like 4-minute mile, 3-minute mile, is it?
Yeah, something like that.
That was the moment.
Yeah,
that was the light bulb moment where it was like a fucking hole had burst in the space-time continuum of what was possible.
Yeah.
And then from there, just the floodgates opened.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, man, like regardless of anything that, you went on to do so much more in terms of contribution to the industry. But it's like, you strip all the other shit, you were the first dude to do a backflip.
Oh, it was cool. It was an amazing time in my life, as well as one of the most torturous times in my life. But it was rad. To just be from that first one happening, and then 2 weeks later being on Jay Leno and The Tonight Show and on every news station worldwide, it was insane. I mean, and not only just for me personally, but the attention that it brought the sport.
Yeah.
And action sports in general, but like it was complete chaos. I remember I came over here, and so not knowing, I compression fractured my back when I did that flip, and then about 4 months later I came here to Australia back when they were doing the Extreme Games, I think in Melbourne, and it was just a complete fucking frenzy.
Yeah.
It was summertime down here because we were going into our winter time, and it was just a frenzy down here. And I used to just ride in t-shirts. I used to compete in t-shirts back then. I had to write with a Sharpie on my back of my t-shirt, no backflips today, because it was like, you here to flip? And I'm like, no,
dude.
No. And honestly, and for me at that time, it wasn't like, this is going to be like a trick in the stable. It was like, I just want to do this and put it to rest. Like, I don't want to have to keep doing this. Like, especially the path I went down with having to then eject 6 months later. And then like just the course that I rode trying to kind of get this thing figured out and done. Like I was like, no, I don't want to do this all the time. This was just like a one-trick pony shot.
Yeah.
It's about quality, not quantity.
Yeah. But you guys, like, you've spent a lot of time in Oz. Is this sort of like a second home for you guys? Like, is this where you come more than anywhere else?
I would say consistently, yeah. I mean, for me, through my motocross career, it was huge for us.
Krusty's was massive here.
Krusty's was massive for us here. I did quite a few of those tours, but even after I quit doing Krusty Tour, I would still come over quite a bit and do different stuff, and working with Fox and different companies, and then it's always been a strong market for my wife. So yeah, I mean, through my career, and then more so now with her career over the last probably 6 or 7 years, it's kind of slowed down for me coming over here. It's almost like a second home. I just wish we could come here in the summer. I mean, we're just always chasing winter when we come here.
Why is that? Is it just how the schedules work out?
One thing I've learned through her job is that people don't want to go inside in the summertime. They want to go to outdoor music festivals or outdoor stuff. So she has to chase winter to go get people to go into arenas. Yeah. So like America, she does wintertime. As soon as she's done with the U.S. tour, we come here to Australia, do their wintertime, your wintertime. And then typically, not this time, but typically as we're wrapping up, we usually head to Europe because September is kind of the start of European winter, and then we'll run through Europe. So she kind of chases winter.
What's it like at the moment? Because, I mean, I'd spent a lot of time in the US, and as I was leaving was when all the shit started to go down. Like, I watched the election campaign.
Nuts.
I watched it, and then I was in Australia when Trump got elected. But, I mean, I remember, and I've said it on here before, the day that Trump officially ran, I knew he was going to win. I wish I put money down on it.
Yeah.
I didn't, but the shitstorm that's followed, and it's like, if you follow any political kind of stuff at all, which I know you do, it's a fucking bizarre time to be an American.
It is.
And it's a bizarre time to live in America.
And being an American traveling abroad.
And that's what I was going to say. Like right now you're in the Gold Coast, which is as fucking laid back as life gets. You walk down the beach, you're cruising. Even in winter, the weather's not that bad. You can still surf.
Yeah, it rules.
It's a good spot, but there's no turmoil here. There's no, like, we got a little bit of stuff, but I feel like it's your average political ecosystem where you need opposition. Yeah. So you're always going to have that. But I feel like what's going on in the US is some fucking next level shit.
It's bananas, and, I want to start by saying it doesn't matter because I'm here in Australia. I would say whatever I'm about to say over the course of the next period of time, I would say the same thing in America. It's fucking nuts because I think I'm a bit of an anomaly as well as probably full of shit from a standpoint of I think the two-party system's broken. I think government's broken. I think it's all fucking broken, and I'm a bit of a prepper, and I'm getting to the point where I'm like best man for himself because shit has just gone so fucking astray that there's gonna have to be some major upset to recalibrate everything. But with that said, it's nuts. It's like everything is so politically correct back home, and you can't hurt anybody's feelings. And if you say something, like anybody that follows me on Instagram, I do it. Yeah. I'm raw, and I also do it out of enjoyment because I appreciate debate.
Yeah,
I will debate somebody that the sky is purple. If I feel that it's purple, I will fucking debate you to it, and I won't be rude and I won't be nasty about it. But I love a good debate and a good conversation, and I think that there's a piece of that has gone so far away that it's so much about being loyal to your party, or I'm a Republican, or you're a snowflake, or you're like it's like no, fuck that. Like I get in conversations with people about the election in America. It's like, oh well, the thing I always get is like, oh, you hate Trump so much, I bet you're just heartbroken that Hillary wasn't elected. I said no, she was fucked as well.
Yeah.
I said the sad part is those were the only two monkeys that we had to choose from.
Yeah.
Like it's a broken system, and it's nuts back home. It's absolutely nuts, and it's like watching that movie. It's an old movie, but it's called Idiocracy. Like it is reliving Idiocracy. It's like it's out of control, the shit that's happening and the shit that people are getting away with, and it's just absolutely nuts. I'm just I'm just stockpiling ammo, and we grow our own fruits and vegetables, and we got a pond full of fish, and I'm preparing for the apocalypse.
So it's like it's getting to the point where it has to be a concern for people, right? Because it's like. But then there's part of me that's like, man, like how bad can it really get? Like, are they gonna let it get that bad? But then it's like, fuck, like it's weird right now. Like, and especially if you look at the way that like YouTube's pulling people offline, Facebook's pulling people offline. Like you know Alex Jones, obviously. Have you heard of Alex Jones? He's the crazy dude that has that InfoWars channel, where he said like he started off saying some pretty good shit. But he's like a conspiracy guy.
Is he the one that said
the Sandy Hook thing?
Sandy.
Yeah, so that's him. So YouTube's pulled him, not just demonetized, like pulled him. Facebook pulled him. iTunes pulled his podcast completely offline. So like he doesn't have a platform. He's been totally deplatformed, which goes against the First Amendment.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is freedom of speech.
Yeah.
So it's like that's now a thing that you guys are dealing with, and then there's all this crazy shit of like. Oh, well, that's hate speech. And then there's, you can't, like all of the gender pronouns and trying to like compel speech as opposed to respect freedom of speech. Like it's getting into a super weird place, and it's worrying now, I guess, because there's policy being made around it.
Yeah.
Which is, it's like, you can be a prepper or you can be a conspiracy theorist all you want, but it's like when you start making policies that pull people
in effect
away, and that is amendment sort of, you stripping people of rights. It's like, is it the beginning of the end?
Oh, it's bananas. I mean, and I'm going to sound like a dinosaur, but I personally think, and it's not that it's ever going to change anything or it's going to have any influence, but the issue is the internet and social media. I mean, you look at politics wasn't any better in the 40s, 50s, 60s. It was just as fucking bananas. I mean, and thought processes and dropping bombs on countries. I mean, nothing has changed, but you have this influx of information. And not only do you have information, most of it's wrong. And on top of it, everybody is allowed to give their opinion on that information.
Yeah.
There's no more tune in to Channel 5 News at 6 p.m. And that's where you get your 2 hours of information each day. It's at your fingertips. And on top of it, you're not even being able to, you're not only ingesting the information, but everybody, small or large, has a platform to respond to that.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is where it has gone to hell in a handbasket, because through that is what's like, as we're sitting here right now, we were having a conversation about how fucking rock and roll and crazy it was in my lifestyle back in the 90s. And I could be that way because the only people that could judge me were
the people that actually
were
knew
sitting,
that was going
or
on.
the people that are just sitting there watching that video. You can only judge me to your 4 friends that were watching that video at that time.
Yeah.
That was your platform. Fuck these guys. Look at these stupid Americans acting like assholes.
Yeah.
That was all you could do. Now, pull out your phone or
Fuck
your
this guy
podcast
at
or
Hard Luck. Fuck this
exactly.
guy. Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest downfall is that you have people that have to censor themselves or, say a government legislator, oh, well, fuck, I really feel this way, but I have to go along with Trump or this person or that person or this podcast person because if I don't, I'm going to be castrated and I'm no longer going to have my platform, which means I'll no longer have my paycheck.
Yeah.
So everybody is being basically censored because of the fallout. It's not about even what their opinion is anymore. It's just about what's the fallout. And unfortunately, unfortunately, however you look at it, Trump is the one jerk off out there that will say whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah.
and everyone's afraid to do anything because it's like, what, do you go against him or do you back him? And then what's the fallout from that? It's just completely bananas.
Yeah. But I guess there's like a duality to that too, though, because it's like what we said, you got the light, you got the dark. Like there's the dark of that, which is that every fucking kook that shouldn't be able to directly message you. Like people can now directly message Carey Hart and say, you're a fucking loser.
Yeah.
And they do on a daily basis,
Totally.
I'm sure.
Yep.
And it's like, but at the same time, that's like the negative. And then at the same time, a kook like me can start a podcast and actually try and deliver people some good information or tell some story. And I don't need to be approved by the 5 o'clock news guy.
Yeah.
So it's like,
it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, we're in this really bizarre time, but I feel like, I mean, fuck, do we just have negativity bias to where we like pay more attention to the negative stuff than the good stuff?
Unfortunately,
because like there is a lot of good shit out there.
There is,
but is that because like let's say you post a video of your new bike, right? And you get 99 comments that are really good, and then you get one piece of shit.
Yeah.
Whose comment do you reply to?
Me personally,
what one hurts to really get you?
The thing is for me is I have a very thick skin, and I have conversations with this about my wife all the time because my wife does not. I have very thick skin. It does not bother me. I will sit here and look you in the face and tell you I don't give a fuck what people think about me, and that is the truth to my core.
Yeah,
I know I'm a good person. I have a good moral compass. I'm a good dad, good husband, whatever. That's all that's important for me. Everything else is just comedy hour. I post all this crazy shit to get the
You're an antagonist.
I am 100%. And when I sit there on the shitter in the morning and I'm drinking my coffee and I'm waiting for my kids to wake up, it gives me something to do in the morning.
Yeah.
And hopefully people get to think a little bit. But yeah, I just think it's this rabbit hole of where, yeah, you're just getting so much information and it's, I don't know. I'm going to sound archaic right now, but I really think it needs to be censored a bit from a standpoint of not what the government can do to censor media, but people need to censor themselves. Like, dude, put your fucking phone down. Put an alarm on it.
Yeah.
You get 2 hours a day on it. That's it. Like, that's all you get. You get 2 hours a day on your phone. Outside of emails and text messages and phone calls of business, you get 2 frivolous hours a day, and then your phone should lock you out.
Yeah.
And then go for a fucking walk or go on a bike ride or go spend time with your kids or go pick up trash on the freeway. Go do something productive. I think that's the problem is these little minions will be in front of their phone or their computer for hours on end of the day. And then it's just the fucking machine's off and running. I mean, I think, like I said, I sound archaic, but I think the internet and social media, more so social media, is what has ruined everything because everybody has a voice. I mean, I just watched I think it was the CEO of Twitter go on and say, yeah, it's fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, we kind of suck, you know,
well,
but it's the machine.
It's that unintended consequences of stuff, right? It's like the Industrial Revolution. You're like, oh shit, look at all this stuff.
Great idea.
Yeah, look at all this stuff we can make.
They're going to turn it into a bomb, but that's what it was for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I watched the guy on Twitter. He's talking about it. He's like, yeah, we put followers on there not as a purpose. We put it on there just because, we could figure out people might be interested in who's following them.
Yeah.
Now that's only people care about it with fucking social media is their followers. He's like, one piece that we had to add that we thought we would just do just cause, that is the one driving force behind this entire app.
And you know that from owning a team. Like, how many
course.
followers have you got?
Exactly.
Carey Hart, how many followers have you got?
That's what I was getting back to earlier. I know. I mean, honestly, and here I am calling the kettle black. If I didn't have my social media platform, I probably wouldn't have most of my contracts in place right now because I wouldn't be able to leave and go chase my family around for 2 years at a time without social media.
Yep.
I know it's a necessity. I know it's an evil, and I know it's an evil that I'm profiting off of. But back to the moral compass of it all, I think that's the biggest problem. And I think the biggest problem is people forgot to go how to live their own lives. They live lives through social media and perception through social media. I mean, you've heard it a million times. When was the last time someone posted, when they got out of bed and they were fucking hungover and their hair's all over the place and their makeup smudged?
Yeah.
No, they put the perfect filter on. They project their perfect life.
Yeah.
And it's not reality.
It's funny that people, like even my brother, he's like gone off Instagram, right? And he's like, oh, it just fucking makes me bummed out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't have that. And I don't know why. But I could see why people do get like that, especially girls. I think that it's a very slippery slope for women.
Oh, brutal.
And I think that's one thing that I always really respect with Alicia, is that she's very pro, like, be yourself, respect you, like love your own body, love other people. Because if you're a girl, like, we get told, or girls get told, what beautiful is, what beautiful should look like. And you're right, that it's always this makeup. It's like this pressure that women must feel to then go out into the world and look like the way that everyone is posting. But we know that's not real life. And I mean, I'm sure you wake up, you give her a kiss in the morning and her breast smells like shit.
Exactly.
But
it's like every other person on
you
the
know what I
fucking
mean?
planet. Yeah.
Exactly. But it's like, that's not the message that we get. That's not the popular message.
No.
So it's like, I can see where people would have that. But for me, it's like, I feel like I use social media just to kind of fire me up. Like, I look at when you're building a new bike and I'm like, fuck, that's rad. Like, I don't get that thing where I go like, oh, I didn't have an Indian.
Yeah.
I wish I had a dope Indian.
Yeah.
I got this fucking old CR250 that I blew up last weekend.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's almost like people need to use it as a tool. It's like, what side of the coin do you want to be on? Do you want to be the guy that's like, damn, Carey's new bike's sick, and then use that to like fire you up? Maybe you don't have the raddest Indian and a dope shop and you can't weld. But it's like, fire yourself up.
Yeah.
If that's something you want to do, then go do a welding course.
That's the truth.
So it's like...
But that's you just hit the nail on the head. If people were to use it for what its intention was...
Yeah.
Where when the guy that started Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and everything else, like, it was supposed to be a positive thing. Well, I mean, I don't know about Facebook after watching that movie, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's supposed to be a positive thing. Like, if you used it that way, like, that's how I use it. Like, I got into bike building through seeing bikes I saw on social media and my own interest. Like, oh, I like that stuff. I'm going to do it a little bit different.
Yeah.
If people saw something and then went away from their phone and went out and learned a new trade, or went out and bought a dirt bike and learned how to ride, or whatever it may be, take a singing class or learn how to play an instrument, and leave your phone over here for a while and go experience life, then it was being used for what its purpose was. But it has become such a rabbit hole. And well, I wouldn't say especially for women. I mean, same for guys in different respects. But yeah, for women, it's got to be brutal. You're held to this unrealistic bullshit, and then they slap filters, and then you see all this Kardashian bullshit happening, and all the rest of it. I think to answer your question, how your brother is, I think 80% of the world needs to go your brother's path
and just clip it,
and
the
20% because there's just nothing positive that comes out of it.
Yeah.
And I can sit here and tell you right now, I enjoy social media and I try to use it for 95% positive. That's why I post a lot of stuff with my kids and riding and all the good stuff. I rarely ever go on there minging and whining about anything. But I will tell you that when it's no longer a necessity for my career, I will be off of it. I'm going to go back to a flip phone. I'll have a P.O. box. You can either write me a letter, call me. I won't get texts. You either call me, send me a letter, or show up on my doorstep. Yeah.
Dude, that's like one thing that when I don't know why this is, I spoke to this about a friend of mine, to a friend of mine. She's from the Midwest, and she's like, oh, what do you like? What do you like more now that you live back home? And I was like, man, people just fucking show up at your doorstep.
Yeah.
And I miss that in America.
Yeah.
And it seemed like it's maybe a more Australian thing that people just like rock up with a 6-pack of beers.
No, it used to be. Where I live, it still happens.
Yeah. I miss that
unfortunately
over there.
Yeah.
It's going away.
No, over there now, it's people stay connected through group text.
Yeah.
It's bananas. It's crazy to me.
I definitely, I miss that, that element of, and I think it's maybe because we grew up in a small town as well. It's probably the same for you. But yeah, like people just show up to your house. Everything feels like contrived now to where it's like, oh, meet at Nobu at 9 and we'll have pre-drinks. And then it seems like almost like
bullshit.
Everything's for the gram now.
It is.
Even just the simplest, like kind of basic interactions.
It is. It drives me crazy. And maybe I'm the asshole for even saying this, but I've been to 99% of my wife's shows over the last year and a half that she's been on tour. And it's like, dude, put your fucking phone down and enjoy the fucking show.
Yeah.
Are you going to actually sit back and watch that? Now, look, we've all been guilty. Snap a picture. I posted one last night, a little video before my wife's show started. I get it. But, dude, be in the fucking moment.
Yeah.
Enjoy that ticket that you just paid for and that $20 beer and watch the fucking show and park your phone.
Yeah, it seems like, well, I
But
mean,
that's everything. It's not what I'm saying. It's not just, I mean, that is
like,
everything. That's sporting events. It's everything in life. But it's nuts. Like people on the beach right now, we're staying on the beach in the Gold Coast, and most people are walking on the beach with their phone fucking filming them rather than staring at this beautiful fucking ocean.
It's like it's a form of currency now. Mm-hmm. Like the likes that you get and the followers that you have, there's a legitimate currency in that, man.
Yeah.
And it's
endorphins. People get a lot of likes on something and they feel good, and it's a false sense of reality, and it's a false sense of I'm doing something good, and they feel, completed for the day. But it's bogus. It's not real.
Yeah, we're definitely living in a weird time with that. But I guess you have to keep into perspective that it's a new thing.
Yeah.
Like we're living through I feel like everything has a way of writing itself, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like you posted a thing about religion the other day. Mm-hmm. So I personally think I'm not religious at all. I hate religion. Yeah. I respect people's belief in something.
100%.
But I think the organized
religion,
religion side of it. Yep. But at the same time, I think that when organized religion was at its height around, basically when they were created, that pushed us to where we are now.
Yeah.
I think that we needed organized
there's cause
religion.
And effect for everything. Yeah.
But now it seems like the cycle's coming back around. More than ever, people are saying that they're not religious. And then it's like that ship is starting to level out. And so. we're slow. I mean, I can see a time. That's why I want aliens. I want aliens in my life. Because can you imagine when the aliens come? It's like,
what the fuck are you guys doing down here?
You get a Muslim dude, and you get the Christian dude, and then you get a Jew, and they're all like, fuck everything. Yeah. All of this shit.
It's all bogus.
All of it. What do we do now? Yeah. So I wish we could do that. But I feel like there will be a point where it's like something will happen. Science will prove something to where... because it's like right now, you could say to someone like, your religion is bullshit. But that would, at this point right now, 2018, fucking August, whatever, and you can't actually say that with 100% fact.
No.
Just like they can't with 100% fact say to us that we're wrong. But I think there will be a time when that can be proven to 100%.
Yeah.
But then you're going to get retards that think the word's flat.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like there's 100% evidence of that. But I feel like with all this, like the social media, it's like we're going through, it's like the early religion stage. And then it'll slowly start to kind of level out.
I hope so, because if you think about it, think about this timeline that'll kind of fuck you up. The internet's only been around for less than 20 years.
Yeah.
And social media's only been around for 11,
Dude,
12?
when I started filming, we didn't have Instagram.
Yeah.
And we barely had Facebook, to where, like, I was telling companies that, I'm like, no, you got to start making videos for Facebook. This is going to be the next big thing. I'm 30.
Yeah.
And I was ahead of this trend. So it's like, that's not a long time.
Yeah. And my point is, think how fucked up things are in that short amount of time. I hope it's at a swing, because in another 20 years, if it's on this same fucking course, it's going to be detrimental.
Yeah. It's funny. I had a guy on the podcast. He's a Aboriginal elder, right? And so there's all this new evidence that's coming out that's saying that Australian Aboriginals are some of the oldest living humans on the planet. Uh-huh. And isn't it funny how you're growing your own vegetables, you've got your own fish in your pond, you're starting to go back to that.
Oh, yeah.
You've got a tribe.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
You've got a little tribe that you're
sure.
trying to be self sustainable.
Yeah.
And it's like everything is going back to when we were these indigenous populations.
Yeah.
And like David was saying, like all the kind of rituals and all the stuff, all the food, all the ways that they lived as indigenous Australians, we're all kind of moving to that. We're all trying to get off the grid.
So.
We're all trying to. So I guess it's like, are we in a race to where things get fucked up like big time, and then we get back to that primal? Like, is that like this neck and neck race? And it's like that's the thing.
I personally think things have gone so shit sideways in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. I mean, think about that period of 30 years. You know, you had, I mean, at least like from an American standpoint, you know, you had the, 20s, Industrial Revolution, and then you had like 50s, 60s, Leave It to Beaver, working class, handmade, like for us, American made.
Detroit.
Yeah. And then you look at the, really the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, and it's like fucking shit on everything.
Yeah.
Source everything out. Fucking pump steroids into your food and your animals and everything that you eat, and sit on your couch and fucking eat McDonald's and go on the fucking internet. I mean, think about like that 30-year fucking period, how it's gone from like Woodstock to where we are right now, or, like I said, like the 50s and 60s of the working class man, like welding and using his hand to trade school has completely gone away, and no one has a trade anymore.
That's the thing that blew me away about living in America, right? So like my brother left school at 15 and he got a builder's apprenticeship. He's a fucking carpenter by the time he's 19.
Yeah.
Right? I did not meet one carpenter in America that I lived with. And I mean, that was like a frustrating thing for me too. And like, I mean, because I lived in Temecula, we had a Mexican pool guy, we had a Mexican dude that did our lawn, and it was like everyone would shit on him. And then you take it to a Mexican dude to wash your car, but still everyone would shit on, oh, Mexicans fucking taking our jobs.
They're the ones cooking your food.
Yeah, no one wants to do those jobs.
Yeah.
And it frustrated me because I come from a place, like when I was a kid, I had a lawn mowing business.
Yeah.
My dad used to drive me around. I'd go and knock on people's doors, and then I'd go, hey, can I mow your lawn for $25? And then I'd ride my bike back home, tell dad the address, and then he'd drive me back, and then I'd mow the lawn, and then I'd keep knocking on doors until I found another lawn to mow.
Yeah.
And it's like, then we've got this like trade schools massive here. Like everyone gets a trade. Like
That's great. There's nothing in America.
Yeah, the dudes that do the best are like a friend of mine. He raced with us on the weekend. 20-something-year-old guy. Like I don't even think he's 30 yet. The dude's got a fucking GMC Denali. He just killing it. All the best bikes. He does balustrades and roofing. Works his fucking ass off.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that's another thing that is really driving all this wackiness at the moment is that everyone goes to college. And I think the drinking age really holds back America too, to where it's like you kind of get, like we started drinking at 18 here.
Yeah.
So, but then
I agree.
we were drinking at 16.
16, yeah.
And then by the time I was 18, like when I moved to America, I was 21. I was fucking over it.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't care. I was like, dude, I want to make some money.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been partying since I was 16. I'm fucking ready to rip.
Totally.
But then it's like you guys go to college
Piss
and
away
then
3 of your 4 years.
and no one's doing shit. And then you get an arts degree or whatever the fuck you get.
Bullshit.
And it's like like that value of digging a hole and building something with your hands, be it like a fabricator or welder,
or even just getting in and being you want to be a fucking CEO of a music industry, start as a fucking apprentice and work your way up. Like, everyone, that's the problem. Everybody wants
age of entitlement
to put in, age of entitlement. They want to put in as little work as possible and get paid way too much. I was the same way. From the time I turned 10 years old, every single summer, my dad would make me go work for one of his asshole buddies. I did drywall, I did plumbing, I did landscape, I poured concrete, I did asphalt for my old man, which that's the business that he owns. I did pool decks for my uncle. I mean,
and asphalt in Vegas
was brutal, absolutely fucking brutal.
That noise.
And that's what my dad's been doing for 40 plus years. My Uncle Joe owns a successful concrete company. And that's what I did every summer because my old man wanted to make sure that the last thing I was going to fucking do when life was over or motocross didn't pan out was go swing a shovel doing asphalt.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned. But you have to take those licks.
Yeah.
Nowadays, there is no more of that. Like I don't see kids having summertime jobs. I see kids going fucking off and
Going to
being
Cabo.
lazy. Or even kids that don't have money just going and fucking off and
Yeah.
just doing nothing. Just sitting around, just doing nothing, being on a fucking computer on their smartphone.
Yeah.
Just doing nothing.
All right. How do you balance it out then to where you've got 2 kids, you guys have a fuck ton of money, and like that's the definition of privilege, which your kids can't choose.
Yeah.
They didn't ask to be born into that.
Yep.
How did then you balance that out?
Well, what we do,
That's got to be a challenge.
It is a challenge, and that was the decision that me and my wife made. That we weren't going to raise our kids in LA or Malibu around that shit. We were going to, preferably move small town or to a farm. We wanted to be on a working farm. And that's what we do with our kids. I mean, even like right now with Willow. Willow, every day, my wife averages 4 shows a week, sometimes up to 6. And we get to the venue. Well, first of all, we have her tutor that goes on the road with us, so she does her schoolwork. And then once we get to the venue, she has to go around and get all the staff, all the dancers and bands post-show meal. So she has a job, so she has to spend an hour and a half go around getting everybody's food order. So she does that, and then when she's done with that, she'll come back. She'll either do piano class or lyra class or dance class, one of the 3. So that consumes her time for another couple hours. Then we all sit down and have dinner together as a family, our little guy, Willow, and my wife. And then when my wife starts getting ready for the show, Willow will kind of hang out with me. We'll mess around. And then when the show starts, she actually goes underneath the stage and works the girls' quick change for the entire show.
No shit.
So she has a job, and she gets paid $1 a day, and she gets $7 a week, and she gets 2 dessert coupons each week, so she can have dessert twice a week, and she has a job. So every day that we're traveling, she has a job. And on days off when we're not at the venue and she doesn't have a job, we go ride bicycles, we go surfing, we go to museums, and we stay productive. But she has a job. And when we get home, she works in my wife's vineyard. She works down in my shop. We're going to rescue some horses when we get home. She's going to learn how to muck stalls and take care of horses. She's going to learn how to run a farm. And and once again, that doesn't say it's going to be the end all be all. She's going to be a perfect child, but she's going to know how to earn $1. Like even right now, we went shopping a couple of days ago, and she spent $45 of her own money on a backpack that she wanted. I wasn't going to buy it for her. My wife was going to buy it for her. So she spent $45 of her own money on this backpack.
That's fucking right.
7 years old.
Yeah. And so I guess that's like an active conversation that you and Alicia had.
Because that's a huge fear of ours. I mean, Alicia grew up middle class, working, divorced home, lived in an apartment with her mom. And I grew up, lower middle class with my old man, and we knew the value of $1. And we both were on our career paths in our early teens. I mean, I knew what I was going to do at 12, 13, and she knew what she was going to do at 14, 15. Like, how do we not ruin our children due to money and entitlement and fame? And that's a slippery slope. But, we try to keep our kids around all different kinds of ethnic groups, black, white, everything in between, with people that are on her tour. And we give her responsibilities and jobs to do. And we don't, people may think we live in some big sprawling mansion. We live in a little country house, a little 3-bedroom country house, and just try to kind of keep everything simple. And when we are on the road and things get complicated and we're staying in a suite somewhere and there's lots of people running around working for my wife, we try to explain to her that, look, this is work. Even though mommy's being pink right now, or if Papa's at an event and everyone's wanting his autograph, this is work. This isn't our life. This is our job. And when we get done doing our job, we go back to being Mama and Papa, and we go back to being Carey and Alicia. So don't confuse job for who you are.
Yeah, it's got to be a weird thing for a kid, but then in a sense, when it's all you know as a kid, then it just becomes normal. And it's like you see that, like I just had Mark Hunt on the podcast, the fighter.
Yeah.
And he was a victim of a very rough, abusive household in New Zealand. And like he said, he's like, man, it wasn't until I was a fucking adult that I even knew that wasn't normal.
Yeah.
So it's like kids are super malleable in that respect, right?
Totally. Yeah, and that's why we're just trying to do the best that we can now, because shit, dude, in another 3-4 years when she's 10, 12, 13, it's out of our hands. We will have given her the tools, and she's going to shape the rest of her life at that point, so we're just trying to give her all the best tools to where she can go out and make the best decisions, and And fuck, I don't know. I mean, who knows? Maybe me and my wife always laugh like maybe we're wrecking them. Maybe we're ruining them. Yeah, no, maybe we're ruining them. Who fucking knows? But you know what? At least they're gonna try to know the value of a dollar, and you know they have good manners and they look people in the eye when they're talking to them, and they have a good moral compass.
When you and Alicia first got together, did you like get to date in the traditional sense of the word, or like, because you were probably a bit more famous than her at this point, and it's like. Did you just ever have what you would feel like would be a normal relationship?
I mean, normal for us, definitely,
yeah, okay.
Because you know what? For me personally, it was the most normal relationship I've ever been in because
she was at a similar level.
Yeah, well, she could understand that I had to go on tour. I could understand that she had to go on tour. You know, like. I've had very damaged relationships in my life because I was who I was, and I would date cocktail waitresses or whatever in Las Vegas, and it didn't go well. Yeah, you know. But I would say we did. I mean, when we would date, I would fly in and see her in New York if she was there for a few days, or I would jump on tour, or she would come on Boom Boom tour for a couple of days, or come to X Games. And I would say we did in a pretty normal sense of the word, and I think it was a good thing, and we didn't rush in anything. I mean, like I said, we've been together 17 years, you know? I mean, we've only been, not only, but we've been married 10, so we dated for 7 years. Yeah. You know, we took our time through the whole thing. And I would say in the traditional sense, yeah, we had a pretty normal dating relationship. It's just, it wasn't Applebee's. It was, you know, chasing her on tour or her coming on my tour for a little bit. Yeah.
Was it weird to watch what happened, I guess, from side stage? Of her, because when did you meet? Would it be in the Destiny's Child film clip?
No, no, we.
Because I mean, I'm definitely not up with the tabloid side of stuff.
Just totally fine. We met right when her big break, her biggest first breakout album, which had that song "Get the Party Started."
Oh, okay.
That we met, but right before that album came out. So we met weeks before she really exploded.
No shit.
But there was, even though with music, there is a popularity standpoint, but then there's a long building process to making a living at it. So that's when we got together, and she had a little apartment in Venice Beach, and I had a pretty legit pad in Vegas. And I remember the first time she came to see me in Vegas, and she's from Philly. You know, Philly's a pretty rough town if you don't know any better, but it was funny. She tells a story once in a while. You know, she flew into Vegas to come hang out with me for a couple of days. I was home. I happened to be home for a few days, so she came out, and I picked her up, and I had a big old lifted F350, brand new bitchin' pickup truck.
Bro as fuck.
Oh yeah, just 909 as they come. And I pick her up, and she's like, "Whose car is this?" I'm like, and I'm looking at her, I'm like, "It's mine."
You kidding?
Because it's funny, because keep in mind where she was from.
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh, this is mine." She's like, "Oh, okay." And then we get to my house, we drive out and get to my house, and I had a pretty nice house at the time, and she's like, "Whose house is this? Is this your parents' house?" I'm like, "No, this is my house." And it was funny, and she retells that story. She's like, "I'd never met anyone that owned their own car before you, let alone, or in a dating relationship, let alone own their own house and a successful career and their own money." And it's like, yeah, But then, like I said, as we grew up together, obviously it shifted. But I think one of the great shifts in that, and look, I'm not saying had this not happened, I would have turned into a pile of shit, but through getting into 03, 04, 05, where, I'm still kind of the bee's knees in my world, but then I go to a red carpet for the Grammys.
It was humbling,
and
almost,
people are like,
"Who the fuck
oh,
is that
hey,
guy?"
tattooed guy, can we just get a solo picture of her? Or, hey, Corey. And it's like, no, it's Carey. It's like, it definitely, it's a ego check.
Yeah,
it's like, I could be a big fish in a little pond of motocross, but dude, I'm just the tattooed arm candy at the Grammys, or, at any of the big, VMAs.
Dude,
that was rad.
That would have been a trip.
It was rad. It was super humbling. And I have this term that my buddy Big B gave me. It's like, stay in your lane. I know what my lane is. I don't take advantage of my lane. Appreciative of my lane, and I don't try to step into someone else's lane. And it was a very cool experience, I would say, through my life, being able to be proud of my partner and her accomplishments, and be supportive. I mean, even now, I love being on tour, because of I get to spend amazing amounts of time with my 2 kids, but I get to support my wife, who is a fucking rock star who kicks ass. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty fucking rock and roll in my book,
Yeah, and it's definitely crazy it would have been crazy to just like watch something explode. And like you would have seen X Games and all that. Like that exploded in that way. But we're talking like everybody in the world knowing
you're talking mainstream media pop.
Yeah, and
pop culture.
Yeah, we've always been fringe culture.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, I guess just to see, I didn't really think about that perspective of like,
Ken Roczen is never going to be on the cover of Vogue.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. So to see that, like coming from this world, and I guess to experience the level of fame that you like, because to me growing up, like the idea of meeting Carey Hart as a kid to me would have been like fucking balls, just this crazy thing. But then it's like, then there's this whole different level. Yeah. And to sort of be there, and because everyone does have their story, and I guess it's like we said at the start of the podcast, is like when you're kind of in it, you don't really, I guess, like realize that there's a backstory. It's like the Carey Hart that's sitting in front of me right now. Not a lot of people identify with the Carey Hart that was working that shit job with his uncle. Like everyone has that story.
Oh, exactly.
And for you to be able to see the backstory and then to like see today, like you've got the full scope of what went down, and it's a once in a lifetime kind of thing to really see.
Yeah, everyone's sitting here listening to me. They think it's, all rockstar life, and literally they know I had kid shit on my hand 2 hours ago, and I'm in a hotel room and changing my kids' diapers while my wife's sleeping. What's both sides?
What's little J-Mo like? Is he going to be a terror?
He's fucking loose. The kid is loose.
I need you to have a kid that's out of fucking control.
He is fucking loose.
That's good.
Well, for one, he's huge. I mean, he's 20 months old now, so just under 2 years old.
So that swole program, like you.
And he wears 3-year-old clothes. He's a fucking huge kid, and he's just hellfire. Loves dirt bikes. Loves anything with a motor in it. Just every time my helmet's laying around, it's on his head, or he's screaming his fucking head off to put it back on. He's gonna be a loose kid.
So you'll be taking him to Loretta Lynn's at some point?
Not. I sure hope not,
dude. It's heavy. Like I
don't want to do that,
dude. My girlfriend, like we went up to Cairns, and one of my friends has a farm, and he's got like quads, and his kid's got 80s. He's got a track in his backyard. Like we always go ride there, and then my chick's like, oh, I want to ride. So I was like, okay, cool. Get on this little quad and you can ride around. Yeah. And then, so she did really good. And then she's like, oh, can I ride the 50? And I was like, all right, go ride the 50. And then she's like, can I ride your bike? I'm like, fuck no.
Big step.
Fuck no. I don't, and it's not even like she couldn't do it. She probably could do it. But I've had the broken ankles. I've had the broken fucking arms. I've had the concussions. Yeah. I've had all that shit. And I don't want anybody that I love
to go through
feel that shit. Yeah. And I mean, I'm worried that my kids one day, when I have kids, will want to do that. And I'm like, dude, just let's go play golf and stuff.
Yeah, I'm in that same thought. I got my daughter.
Because you've seen some shit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've broken.
You've had friends die too.
My brother got killed racing motocross. And I've broken high 80s
dude,
bones.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, my brother got killed racing.
That's fucking heavy.
And with my kids, like I want them to ride. I want them to be exposed to the culture of it. I'm going to take them to supercrosses. But am I going to be pushing my kid to go do local races and eventually go down my path? Absolutely not. I'd much rather see him, like my daughter, racing BMX, or get him golf clubs, or go fucking surfing, or go to fucking college, go to a fucking trade school, go be a fucking fabricator. Like I want my kids to do anything on the planet they want to do. I'm just not going to push them down the path of no motocross and no singing. Those are the two.
Oh, even singing.
It's gnarly. It's a vicious fucking industry.
I don't know if I could get down with that shit. Because it's like, it's so subjective, man. Like you're putting yourself out there to be like, I mean, I've fucking done it. New Lord song comes on. I'm a Lord fan. I'm like, it's fucking shit. Yeah. It's like, what? Hit the brakes, man. Like, is this shit?
It's
or
brutal.
Do you just not like it right now?
Yeah.
And you opening yourself up to like this crazy judgment every single day from every.
It's brutal.
And I mean, I'm sure even with how successful Alicia is, like every time an album comes out, it's like,
it's that same process. Dude, it's every fucking night. Like on Twitter, seeing people's comments from the show that night, or finding, digging into the local newspaper, seeing what the reviews on the show was the night before. It's brutal.
Yeah, it's hard to subject
She's fucking 20 years in, still
stressing.
Still checking the line, seeing what's happening.
When did you get into Muay Thai?
I actually got into it. I got hurt on Tony Hawk's tour in 2003, And 2004, my buddy Kit Cope, who's a MMA fighter, and he got me into it as just a way, because I was so fucking thrashed that I couldn't do much. Like I couldn't really ride. I couldn't do like hard impact sports.
Yeah.
So me and him just started doing pad work, and it was fucking awesome. And I just fell in love with it. And I've been, not consistently, but for the most part, I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it.
Do you do sparring and shit
I
as
do.
well?
Yeah. I was just with Andre down in Melbourne.
Yeah.
They call him Andre the Giant. He's a fucking big monster. He was kicking the shit out of me a couple weeks ago.
Dude.
And in the past, my buddy Jamie Toney, he's like a Bellator fighter back in America. He came on the entire last tour with us, and we would spar and beat the fuck out of each other every day.
So that's
awesome.
on your rider,
I
is to
love
have
it.
like a Muay Thai partner.
If I can.
Yeah.
And if not, you know, like I'm doing right now, like I would have loved to go on to Par's gym, but I just try to pop in.
Time.
I just try to kind of pop in, and I'm not trying to be a tough guy. I'm just trying to get a workout and get punched a little bit. And it's, you know how it is. It's good for the soul.
Dude, I was just in Thailand and I went to Tiger. Have you been
dude,
there?
I follow him. So Kit was the first American to go over and spend time with Tiger, and was the first American to win over there. That's
shit.
the dude that got me into it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Master
right.
Toddy was one of the main guys there. And anyways,
Dude, go to fucking Thailand
I'm
and
going
go
to.
to Tiger Muay Thai.
I've already told my wife there's two things I'm going to do. When the kids are a little bit older, I'm going to go spend a month at Tiger, and I'm going to go to Peru and do ayahuasca.
Oh, okay.
Those are the two things I'm going to do before I'm too old.
Yeah. What? So it's funny. So I just had a guy, Stuart Cooper, on the podcast, and he had a Valium addiction. So he's a filmmaker in jiu-jitsu. And so he was like, it was cool because he was kind of like not the me of jiu-jitsu, but we followed a very similar parallel. Young dudes, started right about the same time, and our ticket to stay in the sport that we loved was to film as opposed to compete.
Yeah.
So it was this really cool parallel, and I said to him, I was like, dude, did you get like a lot of fatigue from the flying? And because have you heard of like the altitude sickness that can give you like the chronic fatigue?
Yeah, totally.
So anyway, he got that, right? And he was in all these different time zones, going to all these different fights. So he started taking Valium on planes, and then when he landed, so that he could go to sleep.
Yep.
And
got hooked.
Yeah. Anyway, so he was taking like one of these for 2 years, and then he come to Melbourne, and he knew, because he was just buying the diazepam from, you can fucking buy whatever you want in Thailand, dude. It's crazy. Just like over the counter shit.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, I better not take him into Melbourne because I don't want to get in trouble. Anyway, he gets off the plane and then has like these lightning flash headaches, fucking extreme anxiety, can't sleep. Like, then he starts Googling like withdrawal symptoms from Valium. He didn't even know that you could get hooked on that shit.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Anyway, he fucking goes back to the UK, detoxes from Valium, ends up in like this crazy depression, goes to Spain to do ayahuasca. He did 2 nights in a row.
Yep.
Cured.
Yeah.
Completely cured his depression. So it's like,
there's some gnarly shit with that stuff.
Dude.
I mean, from what I hear, you face some fucking demons through the process of it.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's
like,
why you come out.
Yeah. What's your reason for wanting to do it? Because I want to do it, and I will do it at some point. But I feel like I've gone through a lot of shit with myself, like the self-audit process over the years, especially living in America by yourself as a young person. Like, I went through a lot of shit because I gave up my family and I gave up everything, and I was always broke and always on that hustle. Then I was doing the tour. So I feel like I went through this like really brutal couple of years of like really seeing all my flaws and shit like that. Yeah. To where now I'm like, I feel pretty good. Yeah. So I'm like, I feel like if I go to do ayahuasca, it would be
set you back.
Well, like, but I just don't. I feel like people say that the medicine gives you what you need, but at the moment I don't feel like I need anything. Like, I'm pretty happy and content. I want to keep kind of going on the path I'm on. But it's like, what's your reasoning for wanting to do it? I'm sure there'd be stuff with like your brother and things like that.
You know what? I think there's like stuff with my brother, you know, my family. I mean, really the thing is for me is like, I hope this is gonna freak people out, but I enjoy going and doing mushrooms.
Yeah.
I enjoy, like, I don't smoke pot or I don't do any kind of like gnarly chemical drugs, but I enjoy expanding my mind. I've done DMT.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, like I I feel like sometimes when I'm the most out of control, I'm the most alive.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that comes from my life and my very intense, extreme lifestyle. And to get those certain shocks to my system, I think it's healthy. Now, I'm not saying that I would chase that down cocaine or booze, but like I said,
they're not the same thing.
No, exactly.
Like
but that's why I want to make a clear
Yeah.
line between the two. Like
there's a different thing between like I was saying this to like I got a friend that likes doing coke, and he likes doing coke. He's not a cokehead by any means.
Yeah,
but he likes doing it because he's in control, and it gives him that feeling of like partying, and it's like an accelerant. It's like pouring fuel on a fire, really.
Yeah.
But you're still you're still making all this. I mean, fuck, you probably make some worse decisions.
But somewhat, yeah.
But they're decisions that are at least coming from like down, and you've got some control. But when you do like mushrooms or even like fucking go deep on edibles, and you're not in control anymore.
Oh,
like
it's intense.
But there's certain, like, I actually enjoy that feeling of then just letting go and going, okay, show me what I need to see, take me where I need to go. And I mean, I've even spoke about on the podcast, like, I had an edible experience on a plane once.
Oh, that's no fun.
And I was just like, I was fucking trapped. Yeah. And I felt, I would remember sitting on the plane and just being like, all right, you're going to come out of this.
Yeah.
You're going to be
Talk
fine.
yourself down.
This is like, it was like a marathon. Like, you know, when you finish like some kind of brutal activity and then you feel better for it.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I pushed through.
Yeah.
That's what this gives me. But I feel like, so you're enjoying the same thing.
And I think that's it too, is because I have to be I think I've just been in such control, so to say, of my life. It is kind of nice just to fucking roll the dice and see what happens, you know, but it's also a very positive way, you know, it's like, you kind of face some of your demons, you know, and like I said earlier, you know, I don't have a problem talking about it. I don't have intense depressions, but I have bouts of it and anxiety. And I know, like, when I eat mushrooms, I'll have the fucking, like, I just ate mushrooms a couple of weeks ago, and I had the time of my life with a couple of buddies that I really trust, and we laughed our faces off. And for the next couple of weeks, the scientific residuals due to mushrooms chills out anxieties, chills out stress, chills out depression. And I even have a friend of mine that which I'm going to do when my children are much older, but a buddy of mine did a 2-week microdose on mushrooms. Okay. You know, it's just these little capsules and it's all measured out, and he did it with a doctor, but he microdosed for 2 weeks. And he told me about, like, you know, what he got out of that from mental and creative standpoint. You know, he's a bike builder and a bike designer, and his creative flow was going. And I think there's a lot of good, you know, like, and that's actually one thing that kind of trips me out about, not to beat up on Australia, but like,
don't even get me fucking started.
Like, dude, like the fact that
so bad.
You can't get like CBD oil over here, and like the positive effects of, like, I think there's going to be a lot of really positive things over the next generation of ayahuasca and mushrooms. And I mean, you're already seeing it in America with THC and all that stuff, of like all these natural holistic remedies for things.
Yeah.
And I like that aspect of it. I mean, yeah, would it be easy to pop a Xanax every morning and go along my happy way and not be depressed at all? Sure. But do I want to be medicated?
Fix.
Exactly. Do I want to be medicated? Do I want to deal with the effects of coming off that shit? I don't even take Advil. I don't even take ibuprofen.
I'm the same, man.
Yeah. I either take DMT or tea or any sort of holistic remedy, vitamins and training.
What was your experience with DMT? I haven't gone down that road yet.
It was it's really my experience with.
Did you do like the full breakthrough? Like,
oh yeah,
you were fucking gone.
Oh yeah,
okay. Because I know some people that I spoke to. They're like, oh, I was like this, and I was like, I don't think you really did it then, man. You know what I mean?
I did the full breakthrough where it felt like there was an elephant sitting on your shoulders, and your vision is completely fucking bonkers, and you just get this intense kind of pressure on your system and on your body. And the thing that was nice about it is it only works for about 15 minutes.
Yeah,
and
you're coming back.
And all it does is it's just your body naturally has it in you, and you know all the background on it. So it just kind of takes you to a place where, you know, I have a couple of friends that have done it who have seen some pretty dark shit, and I think it kind of touches on the whole ayahuasca thing. Like, you get out of it really what you want, what you need. Yeah, what you need or what you're intended to. And for me, it was just a really pretty bitchin' visual, stress relieving kind of like happy spot, as weird as that might sound. And it lasts, it's a really short period of time, but
did you come away with it learning something?
I did. Yeah. Like just like when I did it, I kind of came away with almost like having a third lung. Like, oh, okay, like I can take a few deep breaths,
Okay.
and I can like my experience with it is it as it went away, my stress kind of went away with it, and my anxiety kind of went away with it, and I just kind of walked away with the seeing the sun as opposed to the clouds, just, little subtleties like that. It wasn't like really, really intense, but that's also why I want to go do the ayahuasca path. Cause I kind of want a really intense experience.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't, but as I sit
I
here
think
now, I want to, and
Well, like even Stuart Cooper said that, so he was in this crazy depression, right? And then he said that all he got, like there were people in the room that were like having fucking horrific experiences and they were throwing up and shitting at the same time, like really,
it's intense.
really intense experiences. But then even like I've spoken to people that have done like the purging and the shitting, and they've even said like that felt like all of my baggage, like they were just stoked as they were throwing up.
Yeah, totally.
So like it almost seems like, I mean, you've seen people tripping on acid, and you're like, whoa, like it fucking freaks you out. But then they come good, and they're like, oh my god, I feel so much better now. Yeah. So it's like we have this perception in sobriety of, or even when someone's drunk, and you're like, fuck, I'm just not on his level. Yeah. But when you're on their level, you're having the time of your life.
Like, this fucking rules.
But Stuart said that he had this crazy, overwhelming experience of love. Like he felt love for his family, he felt love for his friends, and because he was in like a severe depression, it's like ayahuasca showed him what he needed to see. Yeah. Like he needed to feel that intense pleasure and happiness and love, because that was sucked out of his life because of this Valium.
Yeah, totally.
So it's like it's crazy. And man, honestly, like I don't think you appreciate the impact that people like you it makes when people like you talk about this stuff.
Oh, it's great to hear.
Because even like, man, like I know my mum will listen to this. She doesn't listen to all of them, but she, like with her, she's in that very old school mentality. And I was that guy. When I moved to America, I had never done a drug in my life. Yeah. I went through, all my friends were stoners. They were fucking all on ecstasy every weekend. Like, and I said no to all of it because I thought that was the moral. Like I had that old school, that's the values that were ingrained. Yeah. But then you start to learn and you open your mind up to stuff. And it's like, you can use things as a tool. You can abuse. Like, we all know a bad drunk. Oh, yeah. We all know a guy that fights when he drinks. Yep. We all know a chick that fucking cries every time she drinks. Like, these things are tools that you have to be responsible as a person. Oh, exactly. And there's so much science out there. And even, like you said, the scientific stuff with mushrooms. Yeah. Like, the psilocybin molecule binds to your serotonin receptors, like, identically. Like, they were made to do it. Yeah. And it's like, it's just such a crazy time of information, and you should definitely do the microdosing stuff. Because I've done like, didn't do it all the way because I had to go away, and like it just didn't kind of work out to where I could do it. But like the definitely the doses that I did take, like I remember driving down the Gold Coast from here one day, and like it wasn't like a proper mushroom experience, but like everything looked a little bit sharper. Yeah, exactly. And I could see, like, I appreciated like the way the clouds looked, and it sounds like real woo woo, but it's the truth. But I'm like driving, and I'm like, man, it's fucking crazy. Like, look at these clouds, and like I just felt good. Music felt good, and then I got to work.
Things smell a little better.
Yeah, and I think that it's good to put yourself in those headspaces, because you take. That's the thing with these. It's the same with alcohol. Like, you ever got fucked up on tequila? You take something out of that shit. Oh, yeah. You don't want to drink tequila again. You take that smell of tequila and you fucking throw that bottle as far away from yourself as you can. But it's like, I think one of the curses of humanity is you're given one perspective. Yeah. And if there's a few things in life that I think can open up your perspective. And that's travel, and then hallucinogens or substances that change your perspective. Because you'd know people, they're one issue voters that have never left their fucking town. And it's like, they're locked into that perspective. Yeah. And it's a fucking curse, man.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, some of the biggest, life lessons I've taken away have been through where motocross has taken me. I remember one of my first like big kind of intense trips for me was back when we were filming Cressy. We went to Brazil. I was 23 years old, I guess 23 years old, and we did 2 weeks in Brazil filming for Krusty, and we were 5 American dudes, money in our pocket and nice motorcycles. And dude, we went through the barrios of Rio and Sao Paulo and all along the Amazon River. And it's like, I saw a group of a whole country of people that lived well below the poverty line, that were happy and had dirt floors and didn't have indoor plumbing, but it was a very intense experience for me. And it was like, when I came home from that tour, I was like, wow, like, I am going to appreciate everything I have a little bit fucking more.
That stayed with you for a while?
Oh, for a long time. Yeah. I mean, even after that, like I've gone back to Brazil since then, and I actually used to go do a lot of riding in like Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, and it's a different world. I mean, you deal with third world countries. It's a different, it's a different world.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree. Like, I remember I actually went with RC to Costa Rica, and
I know I was supposed to go on that trip.
Were you supposed to?
I was.
Fuck, you should have come on that trip, dude. We run up a fucking tab, son. Oh, man. Yeah. Dude, between like Ricky and JH, like we got fucking blind at Hard Rock. And dude, Ricky's guilty of that in a way. Like he wasn't eating, like I was eating cow tongue and testicles and all this like super weird shit. And he was like, let's find a Hooters. Let's find a Hard Rock.
I want some Daytona wings.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, we're in Costa Rica.
Oh, but for sure.
Fuck, man. We had some laughs, dude.
Oh,
Him and JH together.
Oh, they rule.
That's two of maybe the funniest people that you could ever be around. And I'm a guy that I love to talk, but when I'm around those two, I just fucking kick back, I crack a couple beers, and you just enjoy the show.
That was the me and Ricky's history with the race team. I mean, the racing was secondary. The best part was just me and him hanging out as much as we did, like getting able to spend that much time together. God, we had some fucking good times.
He's one of the, like, I've met some dudes where I was like, through filming, like I've pretty much met everyone, and I've filmed with everyone, I've hung out with everyone. There were some guys that I left going, fuck, you suck.
Right?
And then automatically I've got like the pictures on my wall, and I'm like visualizing my room as a kid, and I've got like a Garth Milan photo of said rider, and in my mind I'm just like,
tear it down,
just scrunching it up.
Yep.
Ricky is the guy that exceeds your expectations. Like, as much as I worship that motherfucker when I was a kid, no picture on my wall could have done that dude justice.
Oh, yeah.
For just how cool he is.
Oh, totally. No, he is all time. And that's, get back to the conversation earlier today. It's like, that's the unfortunate part about motocross nowadays. Like, in the
strips that away.
Yeah, it sucks all that away. I mean, I'm only learning recently. Like I said, I've known Villapoto for a long time, but it's only Villapoto at the racetrack. I never knew Villapoto, that's beer bonging and, having a good time.
Dude, talk about like the whole cyclical thing of like shit coming back and like righting the wrongs. We're back on 2 strokes and we're back racing dirt track.
No shit.
Does that shit excite you or what?
Fuck yeah. I stand by it, and it's archaic, but I think they need to go. You want to fix motocross? Go back to 2 strokes and stock bikes.
Yeah.
You can only do suspension and pipe and silencer. That's going to recalibrate everything. And same thing with all of us. Like, you see everybody doing like this full swing back, like coming back to 2 strokes, coming back to flat track, hooligan. Like, everyone's trying to just go back to what it used to be. Yeah,
for sure. Dude, if you could, like, I think, and you could probably speak to this better than anybody that I've spoken to in the past, if Feld could do one thing to fix the industry, one thing, keep teams around, would be let teams sell merch.
I think there's a laundry list of things Feld could do. They never will do it, but I think merch is a piece of it. I think there's a lot of pieces to it. I don't think there's one end all be all, because there's a slippery slope with that. Like, I've been in that business before, merch.
Yeah.
And, and I've even talked with Coy from JGR about it. And it's like, okay, you roll the dice, you get a truck, a trailer, a couple $100,000 worth of product printed in the back of your truck, driver, fuel, hotels, and you go out after the Supercross series. And it's like the bands, like, got the most bitchin' t-shirt on the planet, and we're gonna fucking rule it. And you show up and you sell 5 t-shirts.
Dude, I don't know though, man. Because
I know.
Like with the bands, like, well, I mean, you'd know with Alicia's shit, but I did a documentary with a Warped Tour band, right? They were making fucking bank.
Truth.
Like, keeping them afloat was merch.
Agreed.
And I know that if you could do, especially like you had Hart and Huntington, you had fucking the Merrill brothers that were like, could have pumped out the best merch. Like you guys did have good merch anyway, but it's like to be able to sell that, like that would be enough
I think
to
you're
pay
right.
for a lot of people, like to at least help keep the doors open.
I definitely think you're right. I mean, if we want to go down this rabbit hole, I just think and I'm not bitter or salty
I'm not out
about
to
this.
save the sport either.
Yeah, no, I'm not bitter nor salty. I'm just speaking from my experience. It's a broken model over there.
Yeah.
And
what's a monopoly?
Yeah, and it'll keep tinkering along, and it will keep doing its thing, but it's never going to be great.
Well, I think that the problem is that Supercross, I don't think the average person realizes that Feld is a behemoth.
Oh yeah, they're a monster.
And Supercross is a drop in their bucket. And I think that any time you're the afterthought in somebody's business model, like, you're not going to get the best shit.
Well, but the other thing is too is in Feld's portfolio, the only thing that they don't own 100% of, meaning like you look at Monster Truck, they own all the trucks, all the drivers, everything.
Yeah.
The only thing they don't own 100% of is Supercross.
No shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Disney on
They got
Ice,
Disney on Ice,
and all that theatrical crap, and Monster Trucks. They own every truck out there. They own the licensing. They own everything. They pay all the drivers to show up and drive. That's why they destroy the trucks every race. The one thing that they don't own 100% of is Supercross. You know, and they don't understand like paying teams and paying better purse. Like it's a broken model. It's a completely. I've had conversations with those guys till I'm blue in the face. I mean, they've sent limos for me when I was in Chicago with my wife to come to the corporate office and paraded me around the corporate office, and we sat in a room together and I gave them all my input.
And it was just all
it was yep.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, because they didn't take a single shred of any of it. I mean, even something as so simple as how to make the TV package better. I mean, it was a smoke show as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, it's a shame, man, because I mean, for us, like that's our thing, right? Like that's the thing that we're all super into. Like at your core, you're a racer.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just like once it's in you, like it really just doesn't go away, does it?
It doesn't, and it shouldn't have to, you know. And unfortunately, it's unfortunately over the years, whether it's been Clear Channel or AMA, like they just seem to suck the fucking life out of it. You know, like they can't just greed is a hell of a thing. You know, and it's like I've always made the argument with them. And once again, this isn't the end all be all, but look at it from a very simplistic standpoint. To make it a little bit easier on the teams, you're trying to tell me you can't bump up the ticket price by $2 per seat?
Yeah.
$2. You're trying to tell me that family isn't going to spend $42 for a seat. They only spend $40 for a seat, and have that $2 per seat go back to the purse. So that way I don't have to pay Ken Roczen $2 million a year. I can pay him $1.5 million, and he'll have a nice big, I had to pay Ken Roczen $100,000 for every Supercross win. Not Feld. I did. If I could have wiped that away and not have that overhead costs or not have to pay that insurance policy to guarantee that $100K, and that $100K came from the promoter, it would have made life a lot easier on my program, as well as KTM, Kawasaki, Honda, Husky, all the rest of them. We're all paying the same insurance policies. We're all paying the same bonuses. I mean, it's just little things like that. But it's like I said, I don't mean to sound salty about it, but unfortunately, it's a broken model.
But it's good to hear it from a guy like you. Like, there's not a lot of times where someone that's been there, seen it all, put his own money on the line, had won championships. Like, it's not like you're a guy that's coming in and going like, whoa, we fucking had a crack, and it's like, oh, he's salty. They never won anything. Well, that's what. Like, you did win everything.
Yeah,
we did it. You won races. You won championships. Like, you had stripper poles. What, you know what I mean?
We've been on every spectrum of it.
Yeah, you've seen the gamut. So it's like, I mean, I don't know if it's salty. Like, I think a lot of people agree with what you're saying. Yeah, but it's like not a lot of people. I mean, I was pretty deep in it. I didn't know half the stuff that you just said.
Yeah, I think it's just. I've always said, and maybe it's not the answer. I've always said, I think almost like the France family needs to buy Supercross, like that does NASCAR, because, at least with NASCAR, there's money paid back to the teams. And this isn't about I don't want to get into a conversation about, who should get the money, the riders or the teams, but there's no other sports that I know of, racing sports out there that I know of, that the team has to go out and raise every single dollar, and when the first race starts, there's no opportunity to recoup any money along the way. And think about that. That's how it is with motocross. You have to make $1 to spend $1. Okay? Once the season's off and running, There's no chances of a championship bonus for a race team, or just like with NASCAR, like, a car makes the main event. Like, I don't know how many people in Australia follow NASCAR. You'll see some cars do the start and run like 5 or 6 laps, and they'll pull off and load up the truck and head to the next race because they got start money. The team got start money, and the driver got start money.
I didn't know that.
That's how any form, like Formula One, like that's how they all work. Supercross is, that I know of, is the only one, or one of the few ones, or probably the only one at that level. There's no money that comes back. Do you know that a pro, to win Anaheim 1, Feld pays the winner $25,000? I mean, that's the same purse that McGrath got in the 90s. It hasn't changed. That's what I'm getting at. It's just, and once again, I'm not beating up on Feld. Once again, from their seat, it's a business, and they have to run it on a P&L, and I understand that. But from a purist and a fan, and being on both sides of the fence, I think there's a lot of things they could change to make it better for everybody. But I also think it'll never happen, because you have these dinosaurs that are running the manufacturers, and you have these dudes that have been in their seats way too long through the Clear Channel and all the transitions of all of it. They all think their shit don't stink, and it's going to take 20 years for a new batch of people to get brought in, but I don't think the sport will be around in 20 years. I hope it is. I really do, but I don't have a lot of hope that it will be.
But man, like, that's where you see like Red Bull Straight Rhythm. Mm-hmm. Like, fuck, people have to get behind that event.
Totally.
Like, that's what Jeremy's doing with that whole thing with like 2 strokes only.
Yeah.
Like fucking Stank Dog won.
Yeah.
He beat Villapoto.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so cool to have an event like that is looking after the riders. Like, Jeremy's paying these dudes to go. Well, Red Bull,
and they put production value in it.
Exactly.
And the way they shoot it in the TV package, every person is seen. Therefore, those logos get seen. Therefore, those sponsors are happy.
Yep.
True story. I sat with Feld at this meeting, and they're like, "We want to get your opinion. How can we make it better?" Blah 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 blah. I said, "Tell you what. The heart of motocross is 2-stroke, and there are a million guys out there, like myself as a teenager, or Ricky Carmichael's a teenager, that never in today's world would have made it to where we were. Ricky couldn't afford to as he was a kid, and I couldn't. Why don't get rid of the stupid fucking the loading the hay bales in the back of the pickup truck for that fucking 15 minutes? I said, do a West Coast and an East Coast non-factory, non-supported privateer 2-stroke main event. I said, you can run their qualifying and practice in a 10-minute window during the day. They get a 10-lap race. Do an East Coast and a West Coast, just like lights. I will give up a ride. Whoever wins the series, I will give them a ride next year on the 450.
God, that's sick.
Mechanic, bike, whole deal. I will give them a ride. Because I know, selfishly enough, I'm going to get a lot of press out of that. But I will spend the money. I'll spend the couple $100,000 that'll take to take that person racing. There wasn't even a second conversation about it. Because you know what was more important? Throwing those stupid fucking hay bales in the back of that Toyota truck to get that fucking Toyota money.
Which was probably, in a roundabout way, some kind of like freebie that they threw out to sweeten a deal in like Monster Truck. Or, you know what I mean?
I mean, whatever.
Because it's all like kind of linked
but
in.
like, do they want to reinvest into the sport? Do they want to conserve the sport? Or they just want to suck the life out of it?
You want that quick Toyota check.
Exactly.
But dude, you know what's crazy? Like, Straight Rhythm last year, you had Ronnie Mack and Stank Dog in the final. Mm-hmm. And when that final was over, I can't remember who was in the 450 final. It was Marvin and someone, right? Marvin's one of the premier riders. The stands fucking emptied.
I bet.
After Ronnie. And I was filming it, and I'm tripping out.
Yeah.
I was tripping out that people were leaving the stands as one of the best 450 riders on the planet is sitting on the gate. Yeah. Why? Because they were pumped.
Yeah.
They got to see like that Stank Dog and Ronnie Mack final was like,
it was great,
amazing. And then they took full advantage of Ronnie when Ronnie's like, well, I figured out a 69% chance, and it's like live TV, and he comes up with that.
But why do they like it so much? Because they're showing a personality. It's not about what he's doing on the track.
Yeah.
They're showing the personality.
And people love 2-strokes.
Yeah.
It's back. And now this year, Red Bull Straight Rhythm is all 2-strokes.
That's awesome.
And it's genius. People, that ratings of this year's Straight Rhythm is just going to crush.
Yeah. Do you know what the ratings for Supercross are back home? It's a fucking joke. They're barely breaking 1 million views.
That's crazy.
I mean, think about it. I have almost as many people on my social media as viewers are on fucking Supercross each year.
Yeah.
Out of control.
And even like when I was filming and you guys would have had the same thing, like we can't even make content
No.
around it because they sell the rights to Fox.
Yeah.
And it's like, but man, that's the same everywhere. Like I filmed for V8 Supercars, which is like our NASCAR.
Yeah.
And then the team that I was filming, the team Triton Racing, their guy got punted, fucking cartwheel, dude. Like one of the biggest crashes of the year. And I was just doing their shit for social. And I couldn't even show the car crash, like the team manager watching it crash on TV in the background of the shot. No, like you can't do it. I'm like, you're blowing it.
Yeah.
Like it's done now.
Yeah.
Your live TV event is done now. You want to make this shit live forever?
Yeah.
Fucking put it on
live
Instagram.
social. Exactly.
Put it on Instagram. Let people share it. Let people repost. Let this moment live forever.
Yeah.
It's still at your race. Like we can't. It can't be on Fox Sports on repeat.
No.
Once that moment's done,
Exactly.
it's fucking done.
But it's dinosaurs that are in that position.
And it's crazy that you just see it in so many different forms of racing.
It's painful to watch, and at a certain point, it's just like, are you a part of the problem or are you a part of the process? You know, and that's just that's what came out with me and Ricky. We just got to a point where it's like
you're just
we don't
part
feel,
of the machine now.
yeah, and we don't feel that it'll ever be sustainable without either one of us, our name on it, and it's just like we had a good run and let's go spend time with our kids and do other shit.
We drank a ton of beers.
Yep.
Sat in a lot of airports.
Held some pretty bitchin' trophies and stood on the podium and did the damn thing.
The back and forth that you guys had with the planes, like, I was just like, you two are just idiots.
Oh, dude, me and him have some good times, man. We go pretty in on each other. It's relentless,
dude. Same with Twitch. I
Yeah.
feel like that
yeah.
culture of like you guys shit talking each other on
it's
social
nonstop.
media. It's pretty amazing.
It's
you got
vicious.
but you got to be good friends to do that too.
Or just thick skin.
Yeah,
but
true.
but it's definitely years of being good friends. Yeah, it's a good time. I was just with Twitch and Sturgis, and it's funny because he's kind of like the new guy in V Twin, so I get to kind of fuck with him a lot too.
So what's the V Twin stuff? Is that what's kind of got you the most fired up at the moment?
Yeah, for me personally, it's it wasn't a planned thing. It was just more of a sort of a hobby that has, fortunately enough, kind of turned into another career for me.
So explain it to people because I fully don't even get it.
So basically, the short version is it was a bucket list for me. So in America, V-twin being Harley, Indian, the V-twin motorcycle, the cruiser motorcycle, massively popular in America. It's a bit popular here. And we have certain rallies. Yeah, it's getting bigger here. And what's really popular in America is we have these rallies. You have like Daytona, where Supercross is, Sturgis. There's
Dude, Daytona Bike Week is
nuts.
Fucking loose.
Yeah, that's been going on for 80 years.
Yeah.
Sturgis has been going on they just celebrated 78 years. So this is a very old cultural thing in America. And I've always been a fan of V-twin motorcycles. I've had a bunch of Harleys. And so long story short, as a bucket list for me, I got invited to be the Grand Marshal for the 75th Sturgis Rally.
Which
was
shit.
Insane. Like,
Yeah, that's massive.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like I said, it's more of a bucket list thing. It's like, well, I get to be the Grand Marshal, so I got to host a bunch of rides and drank for free the whole week, and had a get out of jail free card and hung out with the mayor. Like, it was really, really cool. And I'd been going to Sturgis for, at that point, that was like my 5th or 6th year going. And for me, every year is a boys' trip. We spend 2 weeks riding, about 6,000 miles round trip and going to Sturgis. So when I did, that year, going for the 75th, I got a road glide and I did a bunch of, I'm a tinker. I work on bikes and I can't sit still. I tinker. So I built a bike, nothing crazy, just kind of did my own version of a little custom motorcycle. Rode it at Sturgis that year. A couple magazines photographed it, and got some hype out of it, which was super flattering and fun for me. Then later that year, because of the little bit of buzz about, me building this bike and being the Grand Marshal, I started getting invites. I got invited for Hot Bike Tour, which Hot Bike Tour in America is the biggest, since all the TV show crap went away and all that, it's the biggest motorcycle custom bike building competition in America. And it's Hot Bike Magazine that puts it on. So I got a call from my buddy who's the editor over there. And he's like, hey, how serious about this stuff are you? And I lied. I was like, oh, I'm super into it. I'm all in. He's like, well, do you want to be a invited builder for a Hot Bike Tour? I was like, fuck yeah. Like, without even thinking about it. Yeah. All right, well, you're in. So I then started. So at this point, it was still kind of early, but I saw that there was definitely some excitement about me being a dirt bike rider, kind of jumping the fence, authentically jumping the fence because I enjoy these bikes and working on it myself. And so I started putting a lot more effort at that point. So I spent all year building this bike for that competition. Bike went on competition. I won 2 of the stops of the 5, which was not expected, but super flattering. And it literally just kind of snowballed. So much of what we talked about earlier with my motocross, like I kind of had like a long-term vision, you know, like I'd rather be the young guy in baggers than the old guy on dirt bikes, you know? And I feel that there is a lot of future in V-twin. I enjoy it. It's a passion of mine. And I love working and building bikes. So it got kind of serious for me about 3 years ago. And I took the torch and run. I've done probably about 15 custom builds in the last 3 years. The bike I did last year for Hot Bike, I got invited back for Hot Bike Tour, and I actually won the tour last year with a sidecar that I built. And then
is that crazy chrome?
Yeah, it looks like a fighter jet.
Yeah.
So I built that. That ended up winning the tour, and through that, I wanted, which has been great because like I've been working with Dunlop tires for 25 years now, and so I'm now an ambassador for Dunlop on the street side, and I've worked with Bel-Ray for 10 years. I'm now on the street side, so I'm able to keep some of these relationships that I would have aged out at in motocross. I'm able to keep them in V-twin, and then now I'm working with Corporate Indian. And
it's not just that like you can keep getting checks. Like they're good people. Like when you
awesome, yeah,
industry people that you start really working with, you get these relationships with. Like it's sort of sad when they time out.
It is,
and you don't get to kind of hang with them in the same way.
Exactly, and that's what's great. Like you take Dunlop. You know, I've been riding for Dunlop for 25 years. I've been riding Dunlop since I was on 80s, and you know, here I am. I get to continue, and now I have an entire new future in V-twin working with Dunlop. And that's really what my goal is. Like, I love building bikes. I love being in my shop with my kids hanging out, me and Big B bickering and throwing wrenches at each other and creating these motorcycles. I love that part of it. I love hooligan racing. And honestly, I love going to motorcycle rallies, drinking beer, meeting new people, talking about the good old days, doing my charity ride, and just enjoying the twilight that is my motocross career.
Yeah.
So I'm having a great time doing it, and you know, I feel like I'm kind of helping Indian sell some bikes and working with the companies I'm working with, and just having a great time doing it.
Is the bikes that you're building, are they for sale? Like you're actually doing custom jobs for people?
No, you know what? I did two customer builds. I did one for Oakley that Oakley's taking around America right now as a display bike, and then I built one for a friend. And not that there was any harm in doing them, but I only build stuff for myself because my heart is just not in build something for somebody else.
Yeah,
I don't want to go down that path. I really enjoy, like for me personally, I'll build anywhere from 2 to 4 bikes a year. Usually one is my personal riding bike for that fiscal current riding year.
Yeah.
And then I'll do one project for Indian or for a tour. Like right now, when I get home, I got 3 builds I got to do by February. But they're either for myself or for a competition or for Indian or for something, but I don't want to do the customer thing. I don't want to cross that bridge. Like this is one thing I'm completely notorious from turning a passion into a job, and then I eventually hate it.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to kind of tie my hands a little bit and keep this thing super fun because I'm having a great time doing it.
And is it just you and Big B doing it?
Yeah.
Or do you have like more people at the shop that you work with? Or?
It is me and him.
Fuck.
Literally me and him. And it's fun. You know,
he's another guy that you two have some epic shit talks going.
Oh God, man, dude,
you've known each other for a fucking long
20
time.
years.
That's crazy.
Yeah, 20 years we've been hanging out. And, he's been either working with me, for me, you know, together with me for about 15 of those.
It's funny, like I feel like the measure of a person is how long do you have your friends for?
Yeah.
Don't you agree?
Oh, totally.
Like you see some people, and I mean, especially in like moto, it's like people are running with new clicks every day, and it's like just this carousel of like 5-minute friends.
Yeah.
And especially when you're Carey Hart and your wife's pink, and you've got that, you're living in that world. Like there's always people that are like, not there's always people, but it's unavoidable that you're going to come across people in your life that are not going to be there for genuine reasons, right?
Yeah.
But you're a guy that's had the same friends for, like 20, 25 years. And I think that says a lot about your friends, but you as well. Because it's fucking easy to just keep it around those people that are going to keep telling you. It'd be super easy to hang around
a bunch of people, fair weather friends that tell me how awesome I am every day and how much I rule and how cool I am. Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to hear that once in a while? But What's rad is when a buddy that I've been friends with for 20 years that says, dude, you're being a fucking idiot today, or you're being a fucking asshole, or how about pull your head out of your ass? That's way cooler.
Yeah.
In my book, at least, you know?
I definitely think so. And it's got to, like, it just speaks to people's character as well.
Yeah.
To, you know, kind of be in the world that you're in. And I think that, if anything, it's like probably a good leveler for you to see where you're at. Because it'd be easy to kind of, like, I mean, yeah, you can do what the fuck you want.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be easy to go down that rabbit hole, but I don't know, like maybe it's being from Las Vegas, of a rotating door of, you know, super sketchy people that come through Vegas, tourist town, but I appreciate authentic people.
Did you get caught in the Vegas trap?
I never did.
At points?
I never did, mainly because I was so focused on motocross my entire life. I was so focused. I mean, I was really, really serious with motocross racing at 10. So my life was motocross from 10 years old until now. So fortunately enough, I stayed clear of it, but I also have a lot of friends that didn't, you know, because the thing is, Vegas is a great place if you're into dirt bikes and snowboarding and skating and like being outside and doing rad, super fun shit, mountain biking, whatever. But it is a fucking awful place if you have any sort of vices, or you like the booze or the booger sugar or gambling or any of that shit. It's fucking cancerous.
Yeah. Well, dude, even like I was in Thailand, and we're at the Patong Road, or Bangor Road, I think, which is the main kind of tourist hub of Phuket. And dude, like, I was walking down there the first night. I didn't even go after that because I was there in like an 8-day jiu-jitsu camp. So we trained for 4 hours a day, and it was fucking brutal. Yeah. Like, it was hard. Yeah. And on the last day, they pretty much like release the hounds. They take a bus in to Patong and go nuts, boys. But I was like, I'm fucking out. But we walked through the first night. There's like lady boys everywhere. There's fucking hookers everywhere. There's like dollar for 5 fucking shots of alcohol. And I'm just like looking in, and like, I've got bender friends. Like, I've got you've got bender friends.
For sure.
And I'm like, whoa, I can't come here with you.
Yeah.
This is a fucking black hole for you.
Oh yeah.
That you could not get out of. Yeah. And Vegas is the same.
Vegas, yeah, it's got a really dark side to it. You know, I mean, I've spent 32 years there. And I mean, even like through owning my businesses there, like between my tattoo shops and my nightclub, you know, I would have to import tattoo artists, you know, and it's like, look, man, here's the deal. Go have fun for fucking 30 days. But after 30 days, tighten your shit up, because it will fucking consume you. And I'm not even exaggerating. Probably 50 to 60% of the people that I brought in didn't make the test of time, and they ended up fucking gone 90 days later.
Yeah, dude, I've been caught in the Vegas thing.
Oh, yeah.
I've done like hey man, not coming to Supercross. I've got some fucking chicks in a hotel room, and I'm just not leaving.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's easy. It's fucking easy to do.
Dude, I've seen lives literally ruined in that place.
Dude, I remember like I went to one Supercross. We had like, you had a party. Was it like you and Jared or one of the? Was it? It was with you and the Merrill boys or something. And we ended up getting Ken in there, when he may or may not have been.
Was it at my club, or was it somewhere else?
I can't remember, man. Is your club at Hard Rock?
It was at Hard Rock. The rock and roll club is called Wasted Space.
Yeah,
that was my place, but I don't know if it was there. Maybe it was a different one of the different properties.
But anyway, man, it like, I don't remember, so that tells you where we were at. But it was like, I just see all the mechanics and riders, and it was just like this closed door, and it was like, righto, the leashes are off, and the fucking none of the team managers are around. I was just like, holy shit, look at this place.
Oh, you think that's a big deal? You should have been around in the 90s.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
Supercross in the 90s at Vegas Supercross, when it was all wrapped up. Oh yeah, it was a whole different world back then.
Who were I guess you can't really name names, but it got pretty weird back in the 90s.
I mean, it wasn't weird. It was actually fucking awesome, because back in those days, I mean, even going, you know, to 93, like I moved to California in 93 when I graduated high school, and I was there as a racer until 98. But back in those days, it was like you raced and you partied. Yeah. And, you know, like, I'm not saying one is right or one is wrong, but at least in those days, we know
which one was more fun.
We definitely know which one was more fun. Like, if you follow like Denny Stevenson or any of those guys on Instagram, and it's like, dude, we all used to hang out together. We used to ride together. Dude, your day consisted of going for like a 3-mile run, going pounding out laps, and then you'd go to the local nightclub. You know, we had a lot of fun. We had a great time, and on off weekends, everybody would go to Havasu, and it was a time that will never be replicated, nor maybe shouldn't, because there's probably a lot less money in the sport back then than there is now. And, maybe it was a little bit less eyeballs on the sport back then than it is now, but fuck, it was such a fun time in the sport. Like, it was just so much fun back in those days.
And that kind of shit's like not healthy to last forever either.
No, but you know what I think isn't healthy to last forever is what's happening with the sport right now.
Yeah.
Is just between how fast the bikes are getting and how gnarly the tracks are getting and the burnout and the injuries. I don't think it's sustainable either. I mean, I would put my money on the 90s over what's going on right now. I mean, fuck, I've been there. It's like biting your fingernails. You put all your money into this fucking racehorse and they get hurt third round in. And the injuries are a lot gnarlier now than they were back in the 90s.
It's so true, man. Like, you didn't see the Ken Roczen arm injury back in the day. Like, you'd see some collarbones, you'd see some fucking ACLs, but not to the level that...
Well, it's just their tempo.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a firm believer. Like I said, it's archaic, but I'm a firm believer. They want to fix all this shit and get bike sales back up and have, an insurance that the rider's going to last longer. Give all the OEMs 3 years, go to a stock 2-stroke 250, and maybe it's a 150, maybe it's a 175, maybe it's not a 125.
Yeah, because they're slow as fuck.
You go back to a spec bike, just how NASCAR runs like the restrictor plates, or I'm sure there's a version with V8 supercars.
Yeah.
You get a stock motorcycle, and you're
same tires.
Yep, that way it's a production bike, and you get choice of suspension and tire selection. Yeah. You want to win on Friday, win on Saturday, sell on Monday? What better way to fucking sell motorcycles than to know that you can buy that bike off the floor? Yeah. It's going to save injuries. The racing's probably going to be a little bit better because everybody will be a lot closer, and I think the injuries will be a lot less. Now, it's a pipe dream. It would never happen. Yeah. But I think if you like really kind of spent 10 minutes thinking about that, be like, that would have a lot of positive effects. And think about a race team can run for a fraction of the cost. Yeah. I mean, a fraction. If all you, and once again, I don't want to cut out like staff and whatnot, but I mean, dude,
it's sustainability.
I would spend millions of dollars a year in parts and suspension suspension pieces and factory parts, millions, to race 2 fucking motorcycles. What if I could go race an entire season on $50,000 in parts? That would rule.
And you'd see more teams. You'd see more opportunities for riders.
Hey, and anybody can get in at that point. Yeah. I mean, think if you could just go down to the dealership and buy 2 Honda 250s and get a suspension tech and go lease some KYB or show a suspension, and you got a fucking title contender. Yeah, and it'd bring in like artistry, like real good tech guys, real good suspension guys. It'd kind of bring back that artistry that created like the Mitch Paytons, and the, because they're artists at the end of the day. But now it's just like just fucking chucking down a checkbook. Oh, it's brutal. It's absolutely. That's why I say it's at a certain point, it isn't sustainable, especially when these dinosaurs that are steering the ships at all these factories, when they're finally like, we're not going to do this anymore.
And you're seeing it like, dude, World Rally Championship. Like the teams that won that shit forever are just like, nah, can't do it. We're not doing it.
Exactly.
Or like Dakar, they're just like, no. It's like no one's immune to this shit.
At a certain point, there has to be a formula of units sold to dollars invested in that footprint. There already sort of is, but there's always, stealing from Paul to pay Peter from a factory standpoint. Yeah. But at a certain point, it's going to be like, okay, guy, enough is enough. We're selling 5,000 units and we're having to spend $10 million to support 3 race teams. It's the math.
Well, like,
doesn't
you
work.
got to think too, like, dude, Ricky's the best example. Like, for the money he was paid on Suzuki to what got sold in RMZ 450s.
Well, yeah.
You're kidding.
Well, that's the thing. In the 450,
how do they get that money back?
They don't, because the 4-strokes ruined the industry. I mean, when I was an amateur racer or whatever, whether it was amateur racer or professional racer, I would get 6 motorcycles a year. I'd get 3 125s and 3 250s. I'd have 1 practice of each, a stock and a modified, and go out and race. Now you can buy. Now being that I ride for Husky motorcycles on dirt, I can get away with 1 450 for 2 to 3 seasons. Yeah. So, I mean, it doesn't take a fucking chemist to figure out, you guys screwed the pooch. You made way too dependable of a motorcycle that's way overpriced that no one can work on themselves. Yeah.
No, it's fucking heavy. Yeah. Dude, like the best example, I wanted to invite you out on the weekend. I just didn't know if you'd have the time. But we just did a 6-hour enduro. And it's like, dude, it's fucking crazy. This basically, like, this is a really cool thing of like how the industry's going, right? There's a magazine called Transmoto. They sold magazines, and then they just were like, well, we can't make any money. They started doing these events, right? And it's like I always say, like, I guess it's like my infamous line that I use. Have you got to get out of here soon?
Yeah, soon.
Yeah. I always say, like, you're a douche if you want to win this race.
Yeah.
Like, if you go there and you try and win, you're an asshole.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like Day in the Dirt in a way.
Yeah.
And it's like, so
you're going there for the experience, not for the checkered flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this year, so this is the third year that they've run it at the Conondale. So we went there and I rocked up. Husky gave me a couple bikes to use to do the race, and it's like a team event, 6 hours. You just do as many laps as you can. And it's like,
fuck, I wish I would have known. I got my gear bag here.
Fuck, I was so close, but you hadn't replied to like the other stuff, so I was like, I don't want to. I was like, fuck, it'll be too much. But because like, dude, I had 2 Huskies there and everything, like it was perfect. But it's like we got there, and this year, like the last 2 years been massive, and then we got there this year, and I pulled up, and I was just like, holy fuck, like this entire field, like huge grass field, dude, was full of people camping for 2 days at this event, and it's just like. People that will never race a motocross event in their life.
Yeah.
People that'll never give a fuck about who's winning Supercross. Just like the real core people that tick. These are the people that
are
like
buying everything at full rip retail.
And I think there was like, me and my brother worked it out, but there's probably about $4 million worth of motorcycles there.
Oh, probably, yeah.
And it's just like, they're winning now. They're winning. They're the best events in Australia. Yeah. And they're bringing Day in the Dirt to Australia.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, so it's like in 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's the weekend after I leave.
I was going to say, are you still here for that?
No.
I'll get you a Husky.
That's why I'm pissed. Was that local? Like, was that close by here?
It's fucking an hour away.
Oh, fuck. Of course.
Can you change the flight?
No, I was talking about what just happened this past weekend.
Oh, this one? Oh, yeah, it was like an hour away. Yeah.
Yeah, of course it was.
I know. Dude, it was brutal. Like, it was... Because it was super dry out there now, and it was like, fuck. It was one of the hardest tracks I've ever ridden.
That's rad.
But so basically, it's like Unadilla, basically. So it's like a grass track.
Yeah.
And then they just slashed it and fucking bunted out the grass track.
Yeah.
And then it goes up through the hills, and it would have been about an 11 or 12 mile course. And you just do laps in 6 hours. And
that's rad.
You would have fucking frothed on it.
Oh, I would have loved that. I love torture.
And we just like, dude, we got up there the night before, and we built a fire, and we fucking talked shit and drank a bunch of beers, and
that's awesome.
Quick shades were blowing away, and we were all just fucking laughing and carrying on. And like, so they had an auction you can auction to buy like a 2-minute lead. And my brother and his mate, they spent $1,500 to get the lead, but it goes to like the farmers charity.
Yeah.
So they're like, fuck it, goes to charity. So they spent $1,500. My brother goes out, he actually shreds. So he goes out, he just got passed by the factory Husky dude.
Oh, really?
So they come in, so they're in second, but like neck and neck. And then Sawley, they're all good. They ended up getting second outright.
But rad.
Sawley goes and fucking high-sides a bike off the side of the cliff, and it's costing him 10 minutes. So we're just G'ing him up the whole weekend, being like, you just fucking blew $1,500, dude. A $1,500 lead.
That sucks.
But it's like, I guess the point of it is like, that's what's winning. That's winning now. And that's what the hooligan racing.
Yeah.
It's like, people are sick. Like, we know we're getting jacked on all this stuff.
I know.
Like, our motocross national series in Australia is a fucking joke.
That's terrible.
Like, it's so bad. And I mean, I am a hater when it comes to that. And I've said so many times, but I've been there. I grew up. That was how I started filming. Then I went to America and I seen how it worked there. Like, I've seen it.
Well, it's painful to watch something that you've been invested in for such a long period of time just get destroyed or get ruined due to ill-willed people, you know? And honestly, that's why I love so much, like with the V-twin stuff that I'm doing right now, just because of...
It's like that grassroots sort of
Well, it is. You have this history that is these big mega rallies, and I'm sure there's all this bullshit that happens behind the scenes, but from me being on the fun side of it, you have, Daytona that's been going on for 80 years. You have Sturgis that's been going on for 78. You have Laconia that's been in the 60s. But then you have this young, which, and traditionally they've been kind of like for older people, call it, 40 and older, most of the rallies. But then you have this resurgence of young people through the hooligan racing, through like all the, I don't know what you really call it, but like the performance, stunt V-twin stuff with all the guys on the Dynas. And then it's like, that you have that whole resurgence. And then you have, like I said, like you have the flat track stuff, and you're kind of getting back to roots of like, yeah, I'm going to pack a tent and I'm going to ride my motorcycle in and I'm going to fucking race hell and have fun for a weekend.
And it's not about the glamour. It's about roughing it. And it's about being hungover, and it's about having to ride, like being uncomfortable while you have to ride all these. It's like, it's like the journeys.
That's what we do every year. Yeah. Every year I got me and a group of guys, we do on a low side 4,000 and a high side 6,000 miles in 2 weeks. You know, we pick a different part of the United States to ride from, and we ride 3 days, 4 days to Sturgis, about 500 to 800 miles a day, and fucking poison ourselves with alcohol and carnival food for a week in Sturgis, and then
gain train.
Yeah, and then spend another 3 days riding home. And by the time we get home, we're like beef jerky. We're sunburned and smoked and, you know, toxic, but we have a great fucking time doing it.
And that's the shit you'll remember forever.
Exactly. So. Yeah. So that's what my new journey is. So anyone that doesn't know much about V-Twin, I highly, you know, suggest you kind of research it. And there's a great scene here in Australia. You know, even like a little bit of riding I've been doing over here. Like I went up to Bruce's place.
Iron and Resin?
Yeah, up at Iron and Resin. And
how good's Bruce, dude?
Dude, he did a ride this past Sunday. He had probably like 200 people come through his place and do all these organized rides out. And, you know, Indians doing a lot down here with it as well. And it's just a lot of fun. You know, it's kind of like for the aging motocrosser, like when you have finally beat the fuck out of yourself enough to where you can't really go out and get hurt, you know, go get yourself an Indy and you'll be fine.
Well, we'll wrap it up, man. I'm really glad we could make this happen. Shout out to Hammer for getting it across the line. And dude, next time you're in Australia, give me the heads up, and I will try and organize some shit.
Well, next time I'm in Australia, my youngest will be a little older, so I'll have more free time.
Yeah, true. Because hey, daddy daycare. That's right. There's reality to this shit.
It is. It's the truth.
But man, I've fucking enjoyed chatting for an extended period of time. I hope you enjoyed coming on and do it again.
Right on. Well, thanks to everyone listening.
See you, man.
Later.
Cheers, brother. We're excited to announce the launch of our new membership site, gypsytales.com, packed with exclusive content and perks that you won't find anywhere else. This is your chance to become a part of the Gypsy Gang. And as a special bonus, if you sign up to an annual membership, you'll be entered into the draw to win our custom-built TC125. Gypsy Gang.